Thursday. We'll rise, we'll have our opening prayer and flag salute.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to live and do business in such a great community, city and state. We ask your blessings on the proceedings tonight, that we will use good judgment, make decisions best for the city of Newcastle. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time I'll call the December 12th, 2022 meeting of Newcastle Public Works Authority to order. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Carl Nell.
Here.
Mike Fullerton.
Here.
Tommy Clay.
Here.
Jean Reed.
Here.
Marcy White. Here.
Item number 2, discussion of possible action on approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion is second for approval of the agenda.
Mike Fullerton.
Yes.
Tommy Clay.
Yes.
Jean Reed.
Yes.
Marcy White. Yes. Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 3 is citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for any citizen to comment on any matter related to the City of Newcastle Public Works that is not on the agenda. Might remind any potential individuals that choose to comment that all speakers shall clearly state their name and address for the record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person with only one speaking opportunity. Board members will not respond to comments or questions. The chair may end comment period at his discretion. Prior authorization is required for distribution of materials or to approach the board. This time, is there any citizen comment related to the City of Newcastle Public Works? All right. Seeing none, move to item number 4, consent agenda. Are there any members of the Public Works Authority Board that require any item on the consent agenda to be taken off and addressed individually? Okay, seeing none, item number 4, consent agenda.
Make a motion to consent agenda.
Second?
Motion and second for approval of the consent agenda.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Jean Reed,
Yes.
Marcy White, yes, Carl Nell.
Yes. Item 5, discussion and possible action on any items removed from the consent agenda. Be no action on that agenda item. Item number 6, discussion and possible action on the adjustment of utility account number 02-3678-01 at service address of 3687 Side Hill Court, Randy Whittison. Mr. Whittison, our representative present this evening. Please approach the podium, sir. Tell us a little bit about your water leak.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me tonight. Love the city of Newcastle. Moved in August of last year, 2021. And in the final inspection of the home, there was a water leak in the meter. It was reassured that it had been addressed and the city would take care of it. That was per the contractor. Vita, I don't know if Vita's here. She has been helpful, very helpful over the year. But on multiple occasions, the city promised to come out and check it out, and they did. And they said, hey, we'll come back in a week and we'll fix this. And they'd come back in a week or two and say, our boss said this isn't our issue, you need to get a plumber to fix it. So I'd get a plumber out there, which would take a couple of weeks. The plumber would come out and say, this is not our issue, it's the city's issue, you need to get that fixed. The city would come back out and inspect it and say, we'll come fix it in a couple weeks. Here we are a year and a couple months later. My bill over the last few months was $300, $400, $500 a month. And anyways, I finally got a plumber that came out. It took about 20 minutes and fixed the issue. Vita asked me to come to the meeting tonight to explain the issue and said we can probably make this right. So that's the issue I had. It took over a year to resolve. It's fixed. There's not a drop of water coming out of the city meter, thank goodness. And I'm hoping for some relief on my bill over the last year.
So did they find the leak was on your side of the meter or the city side of the meter?
I have no idea. I don't know. But a plumber came out and took about 15 minutes to have it done.
Must have been on his side then, right? If the plumber fixed it?
Yeah, well, if the meter was picking it up, I would imagine that the leak was on the
This
owner's
side.
side.
Yeah, because it was going through the meter.
Typically,
Because
the
it was
plumber won't
going-
touch
yeah.
it if it's on the city side, so.
Now, it might have been a connection where it tied to the meter.
Yep, may have been. I don't know.
Hear about them every day, so.
So when did this repair happen?
This repair happened at the end of October.
Alrighty.
So then the next bill was November, so we don't have a full month yet.
Right.
And there's some suspicion that all these prior months, I was thinking the first 6 months might be a baseline, but they may be questionable as well.
You'll notice the months of during the summer when I'd run my sprinklers, the water that came out of the meter, it was a lot more drastic. I don't know, that's the water pressure. Again, I don't know how the whole plumbing system works, but the water that came out of the meter every time we ran our sprinklers was insane. I mean, we've got all sorts of plants growing down my property line now because they were watered extensively during the summer months.
Wanted or unwanted? Plants or weeds?
Weeds, cattails, probably bamboo, all sorts of stuff.
Do we have anything prior to his ownership?
It was a brand new house, so no.
But it really went up after 6 months. It really, of this year, it really went up in June, July. Even June was a little bit, but July, August, September, October seems to have been a lot higher, right?
Yep.
So something
Because as I
happened.
ran those sprinklers, wherever that leak was at, it was significantly worse.
We don't have probably any, we definitely don't have any historical data here.
She's got pulled up, I think.
Well, that's interesting. She does have history.
You can see the problem started back in April. it's just the minimum usage.
Oh, yeah, you can pull it too. You can put it up there. Okay, she pulled it from the mouse too.
So it was a new home, but and you took possession as soon as it was built?
Yep.
Well, how do we have history before?
Because I can see before him.
Because
The builder.
the builder's probably using
Well, that, yeah, but that's his, yeah, but that's,
for bricklaying and such.
Right.
yeah, but that's an unoccupied house then, okay?
That's what I said. But
Yeah,
it was still,
yeah,
it was still showing consumption though, because if there's a leak,
It
it's
showed
still
minimum
gonna show
usage.
consumption from the leak,
Minimum-
plus the minimal amount of use.
The problem started before he bought the house. That was
Right.
what I was-
Right. Because really, there shouldn't have been hardly anything. If they were bricklaying or doing a couple of things, that's the only thing they use water for.
I don't know what a reference point is.
Do you know when the house was
It's
completed?
a tough one.
The house was completed, we finalized the purchase the end of July, and we found the house, it was about done when we found it.
This is minimum usage because of the minimum bill. What I would do is leave that.
How much property are you sprinkling?
Competitive.
The total property is about 0.78 acres. We had about 2/3 of that was sodded when we bought the house. We sodded the rest of that towards the end of the summer. So it's all grass now, but initially it was about 2/3 of the property.
You know, water and all of it then?
No, we don't have sprinklers on all of it.
That's what I was asking, how much of that is sprinkler?
Oh, I'm sorry. The initial 2/3.
Okay.
Did you bring us a bill for the repair?
No, he didn't even charge me. He goes, "This took me less than 30 minutes, and I'm not charging you a penny." So, no, there's no bill for the repair.
Maybe it was a loose connection.
Can Vita give us any comparative?
I don't know if it was a loose connection. I opened the water meter one time or a couple times, and I cupped all the water out. And you could see the pipe where the nut connects, there were cracks in that pipe. So something had to be repaired. He wasn't there 30 minutes, and so he said, "I'm not even charging you. You've paid your fair share." So
I don't have my laptop with me, let's see, what's his consumptions, what's the bills per month, what are they averaging?
Well, the first 6 months they were averaging
We don't have a dollar amount.
$252. The last 4 months, they were averaging 408. But 252 sounds, it's pretty high unless someone was filling up the
Yeah.
swimming pool all the time. And that,
Mine's never.
no swimming pool.
No sprinklers,
so-
how many, in the, how big a house?
The house is around 2,100 square feet.
Just you, just 3, 4?
Nope, there's 6 of us.
6 of you?
That's a tough one. Could we, what if we did something like authorize, they could take an average of some of the neighbors? Are you in like a new neighborhood, like you have neighbors?
We're in
or-
Riverview
Okay,
Estates.
so there's
Yeah.
there's quite a few houses, I don't know.
We're one of the.
Jeff,
we're-
do you have any creative options you've seen?
Well, there's quite a stark difference between when they moved in versus not, so I don't know if you just look at that delta and cover that for a time period, I don't know.
what was that?
Between
He's thinking about the initial,
builders?
the initial.
The initial builder is mostly just minimum use.
Well, when he first moved in the July bill, or the August bill, I guess, it was 270. The September bill was 264. So they were still pretty high even back
Have they
then.
run since what's it run since you stopped? Like, since it's fixed in October, have you gotten, maybe one
What do you
bill
think the
since
average
then?
is?
Yeah,
150,
and
170?
Vita said don't pay anything, so I can't even remember what the bill was that last month. We haven't run the sprinklers since.
Most recently.
Should have it, shouldn't the last month, what was his last month's bill?
247, looks like.
And that ran from 10/11 to 11/8 though, so do you remember what date in October that was?
It was the very end of October.
Okay, so you don't have a bill yet then, really?
What if we waited till a regular bill came out
That's
after
what
the
I'm
repair was
thinking.
made?
Yeah,
and
It
then-
needs a regular bill.
And then and maybe get a little more information from Vita on maybe some of the neighbors and what their bills are when they run the
That's kinda
sprinklers
what
in the
I'm
summer.
thinking, yeah.
We really don't have a lot to go off of, and I hate to shoot super high on you
Yeah.
as far as for what we adjusted to. We'll definitely do some adjusting on it, but I think we need a little more information from Vita.
So we typically would do like previous years'
Sure.
average and give us, we don't have that, we don't have basic.
Totally get it. I appreciate
Yeah, it would be
anything,
better for
honestly.
you if we waited and got a little more.
Yeah, but
But we'll
he's got
just,
several months of expenses that he's sitting on too,
yeah,
so.
we'll continue this till our next regular scheduled meeting,
Okay,
second Monday of next month.
Do we need to make him come back?
You don't have to
Can-
come
can
back
we-
if you don't want to, you surely can.
okay.
But we'll address it at that point in time. If you want to come back and enjoy the fun that is these meetings.
At least it's at the beginning, you're right up at the beginning, so.
Yeah, you want to be upfront, so.
And Vita we can have her
Some data.
hold all, I mean, right now, there's, I
Oh.
No penalties or anything
Late
like
fees
that.
or anything?
don't know if there's late fees because he keeps paying it, but,
Yeah, and we'll make sure to take care of anything
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that
just
that might
think
come
so.
about, so.
Yeah.
Sorry, we can't figure anything out tonight. Randy.
I appreciate you and appreciate you hearing me out and, you know, hopefully we can do something. So,
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Be no action on that agenda item. Item number 7, discussion of possible action on approval application for a permit to construct for submittal to ODEQ, together with plan specifications and application fee for new wastewater treatment facility.
Hello there, Kenny Sullivan, Glenn Sullivan and Associates. I know most everybody, but it's been a while. It's been a while. It's been a while. It's been a long process. You know, you signed us on to do the design on the plant and right at the beginning of COVID. So we've had to do this whole design with subs and geotech and surveying through the COVID process and meeting with the city. What was in the packet for the plans is already in the process of being updated. We wanted to get something in front of you. By no means are the plans ready. Even when they go to DEQ, they're not going to be ready to bid. We want to get the first set of comments from DEQ on the plant. This isn't like throwing a water line at them or a sewer line at them. There will be comments. Even if they don't need to be comments, there will be several pages of comments on this. So what the plan is we want to get the first comments back from DEQ. And about the same time, we will be getting our structural package, our mechanical package, our electrical package back at the same time. We will address all that and then go out to bid and resubmit to DEQ at that time. We anticipate right now bidding, opening bids, and being ready, we hope, for the April Water Board meeting on closing the loan and all of that. To be honest, from start of construction until the last punch list item is fixed, probably looking 2 years. I think we're looking closer to 18 months before we have operation of the plant. So I think we're still in that October 24 timeframe. Wasn't that it, Kevin? With somewhere in there. And to be honest, if we're, a month or two off of that, DEQ's not going to say anything. We've got it under construction. We did all this during the worst possible time to do it. So that's in a nutshell where we're at and where we're going with the thing. I have gotten the site plan and the topo from my sub, Wall Engineering. We are putting our new influent line and discharge line on it, and then I will be getting it to Janae and Luke. Luke and I can start talking about Walker Avenue, if we need to move our sewer line a little bit, what kind of cuts we're going to have. We can get that finalized. I would hope that maybe next month we will bring the big influent sewer line, and we'll talk more about that at the time. Kevin's been involved in that. We've got a handle on capacities and that kind of thing. The other thing is the discharge line. With the new plant, we're taking the discharge straight out 16th Street directly to the Canadian River. We've chosen a spot with Jim. Ideally, you'd like to take it right out to the middle of the river. The problem with that is you still got to get out there and take samples. So we had to get a spot that is reasonably close to the river and still accessible, at least with a four-wheeler or some kind of tractor unit. So We've got a spot picked out with that, and we'll go into that kind of detail next month. But is there any specific questions on this? I guess I should mention what the plan is on the bidding. They're gonna have to bring a lot of dirt up and move a lot of dirt. We talked about the fact that construction prices have just gone through the roof. No surprise, with all of you. We talked about a good cost savings measure would be to allow the contractor to do his borrow on the south side of where we're building, where we're gonna end up having a detention pond. Have him do his borrow there, have him smooth it up. Then we will do our final calculations on detention and probably get the city forces to do the final dirt work out there.
That's a good idea.
That is our plan. We think that could save a couple $100,000, to be honest. So, we're doing everything we can on this.
You think the dirt's good enough to use?
Yes.
Okay.
It was an old sand and gravel mining area, so.
Or was it really?
Yeah. The one real stickler, and I should bring it up front, I don't want to buy trouble with this thing, but groundwater is fairly high at the south end of where this site is. As part of the treatment plant, we have a flow equalization basin. That is, when it rains, when we get these really, really hard rains, it overwhelms the sewer system. Instead of it overflowing somewhere, we put it into this 3.5 million gallon flow equalization basin. In the past, that hasn't been a problem. Mr. Wall informed me that he just ran into something 6-8 months ago where they took the flow equalization basin and tried to put lagoon standards on it, meaning the bottom has to be 4 feet above groundwater. We don't have that. We're right at it. And the thing about it is, the regs for flow equalization basin do not reference that section of the lagoon standards.
So we have to decide if we want to fight and say you
Yeah.
can do that or not.
Yeah.
Which costs
And again,
time.
I don't want to bar trouble on the thing. They may not say it, but I'm at least going to bring that up if that does happen.
What
That
would be the option?
well, we would have to make it shallower and a lot bigger, which is a lot more concrete.
Or would we be able to raise it?
If we raised it, we'd probably have to raise the whole plant.
Ooh.
Again, I don't want to bar trouble on the thing, but I want to be prepared
Right.
and have my ducks in a row if something happens. So the first thing I'm going to do is, and I've read the regs time and time again, and when it talks about flow equalization, it references 2 specific sections of the lagoon standards on liners. And where there's talking about separation between the bottom and groundwater is not referenced.
Is there an option to have a pre-conversation to say, is this something you're gonna ask for because we want to
Yeah,
make it
I've
done?
thought about that. Is that a good idea to bring it up?
I know. I balance that with my work too.
I don't.
It's
So,
like,
and the thing about it is, if this was our treatment unit, if this was our aeration basin, you don't have to worry about it. You could have groundwater all the way up to the top. And that's what we're talking about here. So, yeah, I'm kind of toying that around in my head too.
and what about anybody who's done a recent project?
Well, that's the recent ones they
That's the
did,
most
yeah.
And it
At
was
least
here?
at least for us, but, so I may do a little bit of an end run and see if there's someone else up there that I can talk to about it.
Yeah.
Because they're not really being fair on it by referencing and saying, hey, you have to. Well, they're not referencing the right
And a
reg.
person could call
that.
them out on it. but
Yeah,
A, you kind of get flagged.
yeah, but how long is that
B,
gonna take?
And B, it's the time and money, yeah.
Yeah. So
So
that's, I just wanted to, I wanted all the cards on the table on this thing before we hit them with it. And if it does happen, we will bring options to you and not just problem.
The most important thing we need to know is October of '24, we hope to be operational.
Yeah.
And that could potentially hold it up though, right? Like,
Depends on how much delay. Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna get a straight, quick answer out of them. They do variance meetings once a month. Yeah, we will be in touch with DEQ enforcement the entire way. Let them know we're under construction, you know, this kind of thing. I don't see any problem. We're gonna try our best to be treating wastewater by October 24th, if that's the date. And they, you know, that's one that they kind of snuck in on us with, they didn't really give us a date of, you have to be done by October 24th. They gave us so much after the effective date of the permit, isn't that right? So they kind of slipped it in on us, but we're gonna do our best to hit
Is
it.
that part regulated, or do they just get to decide that?
They get to do that. They get to do that.
Wow.
But we're gonna do our best to hit it. That part doesn't worry me near what this flow equalization
Unless they
basin
throw
is.
that in there, then you say they need more time,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, there is no way they
We
can
need more
hold our
time,
feet
or
to
you
the
show me
fire.
where that-
Yeah,
Right?
we've really done this at the worst possible time in the last 100 years to do
Right.
this,
I
so.
graduated a kid during that too, I
Yeah,
understand. None
exactly,
of it's
so.
ideal.
Anyway, we are asking for your approval to submit this to DEQ to get the regulatory ball rolling on this, so that we can keep on track.
Very first of a lot of votes.
Yeah. A lot of hoops.
First,
Well, I'm gonna
My first meeting
warn,
was
I don't
votes.
even know where we're at on our application process with the loan.
Well, I think, isn't Jeanette handling that?
Absolutely.
Is that right? I do grant.
Yeah, I mean, it's been,
Oh,
again,
okay.
this has been such a long process, we need to pull that back out
So I
and
need
make
I
sure
need to
there's
pick
nothing
up
we're
the
waiting
ball
on.
that. Is that me? Okay.
Yeah, we need to have meetings again with OWRB and then, and with,
Who's our bond attorney, Floyd?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jeanette, I was
The reason I say that is Brandon and I were talking with the water board separately, and we both kind of asked, told them, and they said, well, I think you're still missing some items before we're ready to close on this. So we just need to make sure
Yeah,
and
we
be
need to
ready
wait.
and not hit it with a bid opening and say we're ready to close and things are still out there.
Yeah.
Not have any money, that wouldn't be good.
What I'd like to see the brains of our organization, whoever they are. I trust city staff and engineering, but this sounds too significant to wait and hope I know you don't want to borrow trouble, but I don't feel lucky on things like this.
Okay.
It usually comes the other way.
If you want me to do some digging up there and get them prepared, then
I'm not the one individually to make that, but I just say it seems like it's too big to wait and see if they catch it, because if they catch it, then
Yeah.
they're behind the eight ball, so.
you need to ask other even though outside of your engineering groups, like other,
Well, I could go to some of the other districts.
yeah.
We have a certain guy that handles this area. I could go to a different district.
Just
And-
see.
I think we just ask point blank. I mean, it's not gonna matter.
Yeah,
I think we're just asking point blank, and if it is, it is. If it's not, great.
and
Right,
if, you know,
if we
why-
wait-
if
if
we're
we
gonna
wait
fight, why
till-
not start fighting now?
Well, yeah, I mean, straight up.
Okay.
Are you gonna do
I-
it? Because we can't find where it's at in the regulations.
Right. No, I have no problem doing that.
Yeah,
Or tell them we plan not to do it and see
Right.
if they.
unless you can pull a rule that, yeah.
All right,
We're ready for a
thank you,
motion.
Kenny. I'll make a motion to approve item 7.
Second,
Motion second for approval of item number 7.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tony Klein,
Yes.
Gene Reed,
Yes.
Marcy White, Carl Nell.
Yes. Item,
Kenny.
thanks,
Thanks.
Kenny. Item number 8, discussion of possible action on approval of projects and adoption of 5-year capital improvement plan for water and wastewater infrastructure.
So I assume council got this in their packets, although it didn't come out the way I hoped it would, as far as the appearance of it. The projects that were on that CIP, are basically priority projects over the next 5 years, that Jim has taken a look at, him and his assistant superintendent, along with myself. Some of those projects, they believe will resolve some of our low-pressure issues immediately, or at least improve them, not resolve them altogether. And then, of course, some of those are long-term projects that are most likely going to have to be financed, or such as the 18-inch water line, $11, $12 million project, things of that nature. But this is two reasons we wanted to look at things that would improve to some degree the low-pressure issues we have down south, some that we have on the northwest side. But also, the second thing is, as a part of the water rate study that NewGen is performing for us right now, they need a CIP from the city in order to calculate that in with water rates, their study that they're doing now. So, and that rate study is supposed to be out next month and be ready for billing. But I wanted the CIP in front of council in order for everybody to get a look at it and get your approval before just sending them something to plug into the rates.
So I see what you mean about printed funky, but, so you've got it separated in two things, what we're paying out of, like, cash, and then you've got, like, other designated funds, like the ARPA, right?
Right.
Is that the two pieces I see?
Yes, there are certain things that, there's 3 projects there that we feel like we could actually get done in 23, 24 with ARPA funds that council approved a few months back. That would cover that. Other things we feel like we could get done with impact fees, wastewater, NPWA fund balance, things of that nature. But the really large projects, of course, we can't cover that with cash, or it would have to either be financed or look at something else.
Kevin, did you all uncover anything that was a surprise to you? I mean, because I know you are always looking down the road anyway, but did he uncover anything that was significantly new to you, or?
Well, to me, yes.
Yeah.
No, there were some things that probably wasn't thought about in the past. Some lines that need to be laid and go across east to west that would help boost pressures over in the northwest quadrant, and then out on 76 Highway. Also a new tower, which is included in this, but the tower would have to be off, I can't remember exactly what, 16th-ish?
It's in the Fox to 16th range.
Yeah,
There's,
off to the west.
yeah.
It's a high point over there, a tower is needed to supply that southwest side.
We can get rid of a couple of booster stations
Yes.
by doing it that way and
Yeah.
tying that whole side together.
And as you all know, we've got all the water in the world on the east side of town. It's just getting it from east to west is our
Right.
challenge. And so a lot of this is to do that. For the current time period, and we'll talk about some other stuff a little later on that, but we're looking at an overall plan for our water and wastewater as well, as far as for a private company. But these are some things that we can do to help move towards that. I know I've told you guys before, if you pull up our water atlas, it's kind of scary, the number of 2-inch and 4-inch lines we've got running through the city of Newcastle. And a lot of them are over in that western part of town.
Yeah.
And so we've got to get some arteries over there that we can use to feed that area. And I think they've come up with some great ideas on some things to do that.
This would be from 23 to 28 then? You said 5 years starting, considering January 1? The
Yes,
start of it? Okay.
yeah, or the fiscal year, actually, July 1.
Or July, okay.
Yeah. July 1 of 23.
I thought it was a good exercise and good activity, because we need to know it.
Well, it was good discussion, and I know Jim had discussions with Kenny, I know he's had it with Luke. I mean, all of us have had meeting after meeting and discussing water projects and things of that nature, and Jim did a pretty good job, I think, of putting this together and prioritizing what's needed out there. And also, this is sewer projects as well, as you go down to the very bottom of it. It talks about sewer projects also, and he has his sewer projects laid out in sequence that needs to take place before the next one can be done, so, you know, some of those we can also do with, potentially do with our impact fees over the next few years. Really, the only one that is the wastewater plant that, you know, we don't have an impact fee, so we know that's gonna be extremely expensive, but
Does this, like, what's your overall feeling? This 5-year, we're gonna be in a great position, or it's a tight budget just to get to, like, you feel like this is gonna put us in a great spot, or is like, this is pushing it financially and we're gonna have to reevaluate and maybe do a lot more once we're done? Like, where do you feel like it sits us at? Are we aggressive enough, I guess is what I'm asking.
I think we're as aggressive as we can be with the numbers that we see today. I do feel though, over the next 5 years that I feel like our budget's going to improve with continued growth, with impact fees and things of that nature. I don't think, you know, we may see a little bit of a lull here, you know, over the next year or so or whatever, but I don't think we're just gonna completely shut down.
Right.
You know, now, this plan being in place doesn't mean we have to spend the money that year. I mean,
Right.
if we need to push projects, that's what we'll do. If we need to push it off to a future year or whatever, 6 months, whatever it may be.
We're not committed, but.
No, yeah, I mean, and these plans are fluid, they have to be, just because of budgetary reasons, if nothing else.
It's like a pretty big chunk on that second year. I mean, it's not front-loaded or anything, it's pretty well distributed, but some years are much higher than others, look like you're, in order to get things done.
They are, and they're, you know, they're a little bit bigger projects. Right now, the materials for these projects right now are just astronomical, absolutely astronomical. For 18-inch water line, we're looking at one, and it may be on the city council agenda with Rush Creek. Is that on there, Luke? Do you know? It's not? Okay, anyway, that project, which will extend the 18-inch water line, the 18-inch line right now is $165 a foot installed, but $165 per foot.
Compared to a few years ago where it was.
Oh, geez, well, I mean,
Well, it's material on the 18 is 112 or so.
yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, and our 12-inch that we lay a lot of, if I'm not mistaken, that is up there at.
About a 70.
Yeah, $60, $70 a foot.
Well, so, should things lull, and maybe prices would lull a little for us too. But, I mean, hopefully, we're going in with it at the highest it's gonna be. Wishful
Maybe.
thinking, I know.
Yeah, that's-
I know, don't laugh, Carl.
Yeah,
I know.
prices might go down next year.
Yeah, PVC has always been quick to go up and very, very slow to come down. It is helping, the gas is coming down a little bit.
Yeah.
That tells me that hopefully eventually they're gonna try to keep it as high as they can.
Of course.
Because it always goes up in
Yeah.
the summer.
Yeah,
So-
why not?
Yeah, it's,
It's frustrating.
yeah, so. And we're hoping to get a little bit of help on some of these projects, as time goes on. We'll see if we can get some assistance from various entities and hopefully bring that price down and maybe let us do a little bit more, a little faster.
Yeah.
I will say too, that the numbers that you see on this plan, the CIP, is materials only. It does not include labor.
So you're saying
So
that
the-
our people will be doing it?
This is counting on our people at least doing a lot of these smaller projects anyway. Some of the bigger ones, we would probably have to contract out, but.
You know,
Our guys get a lot done, I'll have to give them credit.
They do. One of the things we're probably gonna have to do, whenever we brought the line from Oklahoma City years ago, 14, 16 years ago, we bought a new Trico and a new dozer to put that 18-inch line in and to do stuff. We're probably gonna need a new Trico, if we're gonna get aggressive with putting new lines in. So that's something we're gonna have to be mindful of, that we're gonna need a little bit newer, better equipment, as we move forward with this. We've got a great crew, and Jim knows what he's doing, and they can sure get a lot done, so,
I'd rather have a piece of equipment at the end of the day, though.
yeah.
I mean, if we contract it out, we don't end up with equipment either, so.
Our older Trico's still going, but just don't know whether it's up to the task of moving forward with this aggressive a plan.
This much work might be tough.
Well, a little aware of it.
Yeah, so. All right, ready for a motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 8, adoption of 5-year capital improvement plan for water and wastewater infrastructure.
I'll second.
Motion second for approval of item number 8.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Jim Reed,
Yes.
Marcy White, yes, Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 9, discussion and possible action on approval of pay application number 1 for 4M Trenching, Inc. in the amount of $379,316.40 for the Tri-City Sewer Extension Project.
Kevin, you want me to speak on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
I did not do
I'll
quantities
put-
on it. Jim and his staff are doing the active inspection, but he's had a few things out there, and I have been out there to see it. This is, in the old days, we used to call that a pay estimate. It's an estimate, but it's accurate. They have done this work, so I would recommend that you pay this.
This company is absolutely moving through this project at a very fast pace.
Yeah, they're going good.
Yeah, I've been watching them. I
Doing
mean,
a great
it's so
job.
high profile right there.
We're having to do some minor adjustments just because of all the utilities. We had the utilities marked when we did our initial survey, and then when they started construction, they went and marked them, and they're all in a different spot now than
Yeah.
the plans. You ever run into that?
No, never.
So we've been working with them to get everything kicked through there.
Very good.
So it's just a progress payment, is that what it is?
It's a progress payment,
Okay.
yes. It is not final.
So we're ready for.
Yep, Rick, can you turn them in?
Okay, motion to approve agenda item 9,
Alright.
pay application 1 from Foreign Trenching for $379,316.40.
I'll second.
Motion second for approval of item number 9.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Jim Reed,
Yes.
Marcy White,
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 10, discussion and possible action on approval of proposed change order number 1 for 4M Trenching, Inc. Add $83,943 to original contract amount for additional pipe and manholes.
You want to speak to
Address
that?
this one too?
Yeah.
Okay. When we originally laid this out, we were taking it all the way to Luigi's. And then we started looking at some alternate alignments that might allow us a little easier construction as we try to extend this on north. So when we bid it, we cut it off at a certain manhole. We have chosen the alignment. We're going to keep it out front, and this change order extends it back out where we were originally wanting to go, and gets us where we're going for this phase, and allows us in the future, we'll be deep enough that we'll be able to extend it more.
And how far is that, Kevin?
I think it was just a little over 200 feet.
I think so. It was at their same unit prices that they had. There's concrete drives to cross.
So 200 feet further,
To the east.
It shows 215 feet on the change order.
East, and gets it a little ways starting into that curve.
Yeah.
But everything, we checked it, and the first one that came through, they had a little too much pipe in there. We've got that adjusted down to where we want it, and we would recommend approval of this change order.
This also includes a few changes back at the lift station as well. Because of all the fiber and things of that nature, they had to make some adjustments. They couldn't get the manhole in where it needed to be, or the bore needed to be 15-foot bore, something of that nature.
We added 15 feet to the bore, but we pulled the manhole out.
Right.
We were gonna come out of the lift station straight south, if you know where the lift station is. We were gonna come straight south about 20 or 30 feet, and then head east. Well, we ended up not being able to do that because of everything that
In the
ended up
ground.
being in there. So we did away with that manhole, but we did have to lengthen the bore just a little, so
Yeah.
it kinda.
But this will take that lift station out.
Yeah.
I
the
mean,
lift
I thought
station
We
will be
won't have
out.
to have it no
Because
more.
that's been broken half the time. I mean, recently it was.
We've had
broken for a
issues,
while,
Any lift station.
Lift stations are bad.
Yeah.
They're evil.
Do we have 2 pumps in that lift station?
Yes.
So they'll give us 2 extra pumps.
If they're both
If
working.
they're
If they're
working.
working.
You
They
got a
weren't
generator there
working.
that doesn't work.
Yeah, they weren't
The
working.
motor
so
does,
what?
but the generator itself does not.
And that extends service to any commercial business on that service road, if they want to hook up to it?
Well, for the distance that the line, yes.
Right,
I mean, there are some commercial businesses around the curve that we can't reach yet,
okay,
but that's our plan in the future to extend it even further.
okay.
I believe this gets it just past Luigi's, so anywhere from Luigi's back west.
The
to tie in.
chiropractor, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
And, you know, when we designed this and laid it out, it would actually go all the way up to 34th, 35th Streets.
that's what I was
Flow
thinking.
everything
Yeah.
from up there,
Yeah.
along the access road, and potentially, it'd probably never happen, but could potentially actually sewer that addition up there.
Okay.
But that would be a pretty big undertaking
Right,
to do
right,
that, so.
Yeah.
And they have to call.
Anyway, it'll get us all the way up there.
Yeah, and we think that will gravity flow back to the south, even if we took it that far.
Doing away with the lift station does a couple different things. It does away with the lift station, but also the bore that we've got, that everything up there on the north side of the highway currently goes under is an 8-inch bore, or 8-inch pipe going under the road. So we're taking all of that out of that 8-inch, and so that opens up that much capacity on that existing 8-inch.
Good.
Yeah, Carl, I didn't realize, but apparently that existing board that you do have, that you've been using, was not really put in right, so it doesn't have any grade at all.
Mm.
So your guys are up there cleaning that bore all the time. So we have set this up so that if that does get backed up, it will overflow into this new line and go on out,
Good.
before it gets into any of the businesses.
So it's a much better deal.
No, it's in the
Yes.
moneymaker part of town right now, so we need it all to work right.
Yeah, we don't want anything close because nothing goes down. All right, entertain a motion?
So this places it roughly right around, I guess it'd be the northeast corner of Luigi's or a little further.
Southeast.
Southeast, it'll be still
It's
along
in
the right of
front.
way.
It's in
Oh,
front.
it's in the front? I was thinking
Yeah, it's in the
behind.
front, it runs along the service
See,
road.
that's why we cut it off. We were trying to
Yeah,
find a
okay,
spot
yeah.
to go through
I'm sorry.
behind
North-
here, but
Northwest
we never
quadrant.
could make it work.
Okay, okay,
So we're keeping it in front, and this gets to their southeast corner.
gotcha.
I'll second.
Ready?
Was
Need a
there
motion
first?
I thought you made the motion.
No, I asked a question, but I will first.
Okay,
I make
all right.
motion to approve agenda item 10, the change order for 4M trenching.
I'll second.
Motion and second for approval of item number 10.
I could have sworn you made the
Mike
motion.
Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay.
Yes.
Dean Reed,
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 11, monthly treasurer's report.
All right, this is our 5th month, so our execution rate should ideally sit around 41.7%. On the city side of the house, all of our departments are operating within or under that percentage with the exception of one, and that is our street department. There have been some expensive signal light repairs that we've paid through Midstate, and every time those are just really expensive invoices, I hate getting them. There was that in addition to the fuel and oil has caused street department to be about 2.5% higher than that ideal rate. I do want to mention fuel and oil has been higher for everybody. It's just that the other departments have enough GL accounts that are not at the average that it's kind of balancing out at this point in time. So overall, they're doing very well. NPWA, everybody there's only 3 operating budgets there. They're all at or under 41.7%. Again, also, fuel and oil is also high there executed, but because there's some other GL accounts that are under executed at the moment, it balances out. The fire department tax fund has raised almost $518,000. We have spent over $770,000 in operations of our fire department. The first half of the ARPA money that you guys authorized us to buy vehicles and equipment, we've spent 78.5% of that. We are still waiting on the Chevy pickup, 2 Ford pickups, and a dump truck to come in to pay for those, and then that'll just about finish up that first half of the ARPA money. For this month, the funding we received, that's out of the norm, we received claim number 7 for phase 2. Jeanette will submit that last claim probably in December, and that'll be the last claim for phase 2. No telling when we get that money though. The sales and use tax came in at $809,697 of that was sales, and $112,000 of that was use tax. This is our second lowest month so far this year. We've been very fortunate, but even saying that, we're still 8.8% higher than where we thought we would be at the end of November. We are 5.6% higher than we were in November 2021. And November 2020, we are 23.8% higher. So hopefully that trend continues.
This is basically the month of October we're talking about, right?
Yes, sir. But it's near the end of November. It's October sales and use tax, but,
Yeah, that's what I was sort of
Right.
figuring out.
and that's not always an even thing either. It depends on when Oklahoma Tax Commission gets those revenues and then they distribute them. So it's hard to tie it like that.
Looks like that curve downward fit the trend of previous years though, so we're still way, like, as you noted, we're ahead even last year, even though we're in that seasonal dip. So that's
Our-
encouraging.
Our indebtedness is $4,623,502. A quick rundown of our balances. General fund is sitting at $5.2 million. Please keep in mind that the ARPA money is reflected there, so that's a slightly inflated fund balance. Capital improvement tax fund is $2.1 million. Economic development is $38,000. Cemetery fund is $66,000. Park capital improvement tax fund is $100,000. Our fire station fund is $2.1 million. Admin and technology is $13.2 thousand. Grant cost, I'm sorry, it's $132,000. Grant cost share fund is $1.9 million, and the transportation impact fee is $239,000, which is pretty good considering that fund is fairly new for us. NPWA fund balances, Public Works Authority is $3.2 million. Water impact fees 1.2, wastewater impact fees 1.1, and we have $3 million sitting in the wastewater plant fund. All combined, we have $2.4 million more in revenue than expenses. I messed up this month, I'm sorry, guys. But we're sitting at $21 million, and we had more revenue than expenses, $2.4 million. I was gonna recall this and correct those, but I was told not to recall it.
You're good.
All right, any questions for Jeannie?
It's always good when we're above projections.
Yes.
Yeah, sounds great until you look at the $53 million capital improvements we just looked at. Fire station, anyway. Thank you very much. Item number 12, any general manager's comments?
I don't want to say anything.
I know, Carl's gonna tell you what.
On top of the 53 million in capital improvement projects, we have some things that are going on out at the water plant, which is, you would know better than me, built in '83, I believe it was.
That sounds about right.
We have some issues out there, but we're some items that we're going to have to replace that are very expensive, large valves, things of that nature. That we don't necessarily have to do that all at one time. We can replace those, once a month, once every 2 months. But that things are having to be replaced. We do have 1 or 2 guys out there at that plant now that have really made a turnaround on that plant. And Jeanette and I were out there 3 or 4 months ago, back in the fall, I guess, early fall. Plant was in bad shape. But they have turned that around, cleaned some things up, bought some equipment that was actually needed for whatever reason we didn't buy in the past. I don't know why we didn't. But anyway, that's kind of where some of our money is going as well, so we can get some things repaired out there and try to keep that plant going. We do not want to build a new water plant for sure.
No, and it's about time for a lot of rebuild of those things.
It is.
We're working our clarifiers, but,
Yeah.
we kind of, it gets inspected fairly recently, or often by the state, and, they'll find things like that are just rusted away, things that are just, it's just time and being coated in water every day its life. So there's a lot of those things we're gonna have to do to just kind of get it back going, and we're very fortunate that we've got the Oklahoma City connection, and we're not having to generate any water production right now. And we can have that plant be offline for the most part and do those repairs. So,
Was that are these repairs part of the 5-year project? Were they
They are
on
not.
that?
This is just just monthly maintenance or yearly maintenance things that need to be done. I will remind council too, though, our water rates from Oklahoma City will be increasing next month. what we pay. I mean, they increase us every year. We got a small increase, I believe it was back in June, but the main increase comes in January because they just had a rate study done as well this past year. So
Do we automatically adjust accordingly, or does everything come through us?
just for
For our end users, for our rates?
our rates hasn't been touched as far as the Oklahoma City rates. Now, for the other people, the other entities that we sell, yes, that will be adjusted
Okay.
automatically.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've tried very hard to keep our rates low
Right.
for water, but we're going to have to make some significant adjustments. Because even though Oklahoma City water keeps going up, it's way, way cheaper than building another plant. You know, when we looked 15, 16 years ago, we were gonna be $10, $12 million into building a plant, and I assure you, we won't get the plant built for that nowadays. And so, it's the nature of the beast that everything's got more expensive, and so water's gonna keep getting more expensive, and we're gonna have to pass more of that cost along.
And the rate study that we're having done too by NewGen will include the Oklahoma City rates and
Okay.
the annual increases projections.
Of course.
Of course, we know what they are exactly because they send them to us in 5-year increments.
Oh, the
Oklahoma City does.
Okay, so we're still on hold what the increase might be from the rate study then?
Yes, should know next month. I hope we'll know that next month.
Is it?
That's fine.
All right, item number 14, or excuse me, 13, any trustee comments?
None?
All right, item number 14 is adjournment.
Make a motion for adjournment?
Second.
Motion second for adjournment, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.
Thanks, Kenny.
Thank you, Kenny. This time I'll call the December 12th, 2022 meeting of the Newcastle City Council to order. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Carl Nell,
Here.
Mike Fullerton,
Here.
Tommy Clay,
Here.
Jean Reed,
Here.
Marcy White. Here.
Item number 2, discussion and possible action on approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda? Second.
Motion second for approval of the agenda.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Jean Reed.
Yes.
Marcy White. Yes. Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 3, citizens' comments. There's an opportunity for any citizen to comment on any matter related to the city of Newcastle that is not on the agenda. Might remind any potential citizens that choose to comment that all speakers shall clearly state their name and address for the record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person with only one speaking opportunity. Council members will not respond to comments or questions. The mayor may end comment period at his discretion, and prior authorization is required for distribution of materials or to approach the council. Is there any citizen comment related to the city of Newcastle that is not on the agenda? Okay. Seeing none, we move to item number 4, consent agenda. Is there any items on the consent agenda any member of council would desire be removed and addressed individually? Seeing none, item number 4, consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the, excuse me, consent agenda?
Second.
Motion second for approval of the consent agenda.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Jean Reed.
Yes.
Marcy White. Yes. Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 5, discussion of possible action on any items removed from the consent agenda. We know action on that agenda item. Item number 6, discussion of possible action on recommendations of the planning commission. Item number 6A, public hearing, discussion of possible action on an application for rezoning from E1 or suburban estate residential to PUD plan unit development for Dale Christopher Reynolds and Angela K. Reynolds, located in the southwest quarter of the northeast quarter of section 7, township 8 north, range 3 west, Indian Meridian, McLean County, Oklahoma, and for adoption of ordinance number 929. Property location 2841 Southeast 44th Street, Newcastle, Oklahoma. Case number R 2022-010.
Good evening, Council. Janae Greenlee with the Planning Department for Newcastle. As you stated, this item, R-2022-010, is made by Dale Christopher and Angela K. Reynolds. They are the owners of the property at 2841 Southeast 44th Street. It's approximately 2.33 acres. It's currently zoned E1 Suburban Estate Residential District. Their request is to rezone to a PUD planned unit development. The surrounding zoning to the north is Diamond Estates, which is a single-family residential district. To the east, E1 Suburban Estate Residential District. To the south is State Highway 9. And to the west is a PUD, Diamond Estates, which is RF1. And they have a portion in there for the tract abutting Southeast 44th, which is CN1. And let me take you to the next slide. This is just the zoning map, the current zoning map. This is the request here. Get my mouse. So this is the existing PUD directly adjacent to the applicant's property. There is a office building there currently, and there's a vacant lot there that is currently under that PUD regulation with the CN1 designation. The only thing that they eliminated out of that PUD for the Diamond Estates PUD for that lot, for those two lots, was restaurants, including dispensing of alcoholic beverages. But all other permitted uses in the CN1 regulation are allowed at that lot adjacent to this. So as you can see, adjacent to directly abutting Southeast 44th Street, you have several lots to the east, exactly 1, 2, 3, 4 lots. There's 3 single-family homes to the east, vacant ag land, and E1, and then you get into CC2 district, which runs along the frontage to the east here with residential behind as well. This just kind of gives you an idea of what's abutting, the zoning abutting Southeast 44th Street. It's kind of aerial view of what we're looking at here. This is the office building to the west, CN1, and then this is the lot here that's requesting this PUD zoning. 3 single-family homes, and then the church. This is a vacant lot that's CN2, CC2, that is currently vacant. So that's approximately about 1,200 feet east of this property. And then you have a mix of uses that are commercial, all in nature, that front along Southeast 44th Street. Just a little bit of background. This application was made in August for the September Planning Commission meeting. Due to the protest in the area, we worked with the applicant and the neighbors and held a pre-development meeting on October 10th of this year, where the applicant's representative and the neighbors met together. The neighbors were able to kind of voice their concerns, and the applicant went back to the drawing board and actually eliminated several of the uses that are allowed in that district per the neighbor's request. The restaurant, cafe, banquet hall, including alcoholic beverage being dispensed, gasoline sales or automobile service station. All these that I'm reading are not allowed in this PUD. A hotel, motel, theater, cell towers, hospital, travel trailer park, any permanent outside display or area or activity for retail or discount store, which can be seen from a public street or adjacent property, such as a plant nursery, storage area for automobiles, trucks, motorcycles, boats, trailers, or any other mechanical equipment is prohibited. Marijuana dispensaries, and a bowling alley. They have gone also at that pre-development meeting, the neighbors, which they already had the 80% facade on all sides, are in the PUD, so of masonry brick per our ordinance. But they also included in there that they would build this site with the same architectural style, the residential character of the building to the west. So that is also in the PUD. The landscaping is above what our minimum requirement is. They're making sure to keep that evergreen screening that is currently there on the west side and adding additional landscaping to the east as well as in the front. They've also pulled the building up further, so it's not back, deeper into this lot. I can pass around, just the site plan is in the PUD packet, but just so you have something to look at. The detention will be in the back, so and the detention and all the calculations would come in as part of the building permit process. So all that would be assessed at that time. And they have to meet all of our requirements, which is also part of the PUD. The dumpster location, the lighting, they have gone above our requirement as well. Our chapter for exterior lighting just states that no glare shall be directed or reflected towards residential property owners, because that was a concern of the neighbors. They went ahead and added in full cutoff fixtures, meaning lights can only shine down and not out. We don't have that in our residential ordinance, so it's almost more restrictive than we can ever get in any single family residential. The screening will be a masonry fence combined with a wood or solid opaque fence surrounding that. It's also using the evergreens, like I stated. There is only going to be one access drive, so it'll be that current access drive. There's not going to be a new road or anything built. The access drive will be what they utilize. And the parking will be all in the front, not in the back. And they've increased the rear setbacks, so they won't be abutting into the residential to the north. They cannot further split this lot. The way that this is that there's one building. They're saying that it's approximately 14,000 square feet. They'll be able to meet their parking requirement and access regulations as well. With that being said, also I'd like to state that, in our comp plan that we're looking at right now, in the 1986 comp plan, a lot of this area besides our section line roads were designated residential with commercial intersections. But as you can see, we've developed the frontage as commercial. And that is what's going to be coming with our new comp plan as well. With that being said, the request to rezone fits within our criteria to support this request. Planning staff does support and recommend approval of R 2022-010. There was many comments made at Planning Commission. I think there was some concern there, listening to the neighbors, and Planning Commission did make recommendation to deny with a vote of 3-0. Planning staff does continue to support this request, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
You said a lot about what could not go there. What could go there?
What could go there is a professional office, a retail kind of bakery shop, maybe an accountant, something like that. They've limited it quite a bit to what could go there. And, it's the market driven, but anything that's not allowed is something that we would not approve.
Right, so they've taken out virtually anything.
A dry cleaner. They've taken out a lot of things. The bowling alley was requested to be added into that list, and they went ahead and added that in. An accountant office, a flower shop, a lot of business, probably more less intensive businesses, more 8 to 5 type businesses. It's not going to be with this size and that location in one building and that limited in the parking lot. You're going to have those businesses that would accommodate that size.
Low traffic.
And so this is going to have to be on more than likely an aerobic system.
Yes, it will.
And so, it's not like it can be super heavy user on an aerobic system either. There's not going to be the ability to have a lot of occupants.
Yes, that's correct. And then based on the number of fixtures, and they would have to, before they can obtain a building permit, they have to get ODQ approval for that system as part of their building permit application. when they would
mentioned
bring
that
that in.
A hospital wouldn't be allowed, but a doctor's or clinic might be.
An office.
Yeah, okay.
If I could, from the planning commission, our minutes don't reflect fully the discussion we had, and I would like to clarify that if I could.
Okay.
The planning commission myself, the planning commission and myself, this is an area that in the past we've looked at as going, eventually it will develop commercial. And that was commented to be still the case. The question that ultimately brought the motion from Dennis was, maybe it's not time yet, but it will go commercial. It's just obvious with that, in that area, eventually it will. The applicant has made significant concessions. There is commercial beside it. And the proposed PUD references a decor or a style that would fit into a neighborhood setting. The significant concern was neighbors who want to remain a rural setting. That might exist for a temporary period, but eventually, with our future comprehensive plan, and as we've developed and operated in the planning commission, we think this will be commercial at some point. The turning point got to be a comment about traffic and being able to get out on Highway 9 at May Avenue, being the primary entry point to go east. And that was a critical thought that the planning commission was concerned with. Timing was Dennis's comment when he made the motion, and I think that's where we were. Eventually, we would support this. Personally, I came that evening, I'd reviewed the materials, and I thought this would be a good use. It would put a new facility, nice looking building, that sort of thing in there, and the applicant had already met with the residents and conceded a number of items. But when Dennis wanted to postpone it, that's what our vote was really based on. It was just a timing issue and the traffic issue. Those are the significant detriments to this. I would note with the restrictions, the applicant has definitely reduced the traffic count type business that would be going in there. So I think that's a major factor in mitigating the traffic problem. I mean, we have a problem at May Avenue and Highway 9, but it's not going to change until we get some major traffic control there. Thank you.
And looking at this, and that's where I was trying to get from Janae, there's commercial right beside it that's pretty much unrestricted on what can go there with a couple of restrictions. This is an opportunity to obtain an extremely low use or low impact commercial there that board five.
Go back to that map.
Yeah. No, in the future, none of us probably will be on the council, but there's a good chance if this doesn't happen this time, it'll come back again. And it may come back and be approved as something that's not as restricted. The opportunity to get something in there that would be complementary, I believe, to the neighborhood would be, I think, better than leaving it open to, but, we need to hear from the neighbors as well, but the concern is that lot to the east, or to the west, excuse me, that there's really not a lot of restrictions on what's gonna go on that. And,
It's our zone CC, isn't it?
seeing,
Are you talking about the Diamond Estates?
Yes,
Okay.
it's here, in this vacant lot.
so, and if you bookended it with the existing traditions, location, and something similar on this lot, it would be kind of something that would lead to maybe a similar type of use on that lot rather than something that would go out of bounds on what we really would want in that neighborhood area.
All of Diamond Estates gets access through that service road, right?
Yes,
And all the residents in Blue Ridge also?
yes.
Blue Ridge, yeah.
And how many homes are in those two additions, probably?
I can answer that if you don't mind.
Well, you have an
Yeah,
idea?
just.
I
mean,
just also, I
It's kind of
wanted,
rhetorical, Janae, excuse me, but the reason I asked the question, regards, I mean, there are a lot of homes in there that use that road, so,
Around 50.
usually just in Diamond States.
Oh, I counted both.
Okay, and this
But
one's
yeah.
growing.
Yeah,
So usually the challenge for traffic is when we're asked not to approve new neighborhoods, because that's the bulk of the traffic, so I'm wondering what percentage additional traffic that would represent. Unless it's, and that type of office, it just doesn't seem like it'd be a lot more traffic compared to what's already there.
because it's such a low impact, kind of commercial neighborhood proposal, it's not something that by the building footprint, this location and adjacent properties that would really warrant a traffic impact analysis or anything. I will say, as you know, our traffic impact fee, is related, and when they come in for their building permit, they have to pay a traffic impact fee related to their building permit that goes through cost and maintenance of roads throughout Newcastle. I just wanted to point out too, the commercial land uses that we have along here fronting on Southeast 44th, you can see that you have neighborhood, you have some apartments, you have some single-family homes, but you kind of see this mix. This is that Sooner Restoration business. They in fact have several single-family homes that are directly abutting them and across the street with the commercial uses in front. So that, and this lot here too, this is CC2. So it's straight zoned. Anything under the CC2 could come into that lot and that would never come before planning commission or city council. They could come in for a building permit as long as they didn't want to subdivide it. And then if we get into subdivision, then we're doing a little bit different.
Could I build on that, Janae, add to what you're saying?
You could build a McDonald's, you could build a gas station, you could build anything allowed in CC2 on this lot right here.
So, a lot of our citizens have told me over the last several years, they kind of use the term PUD with a bit of a disdain, but the PUD means we plan the development there, and it really does. So, a PUD could be poorly designed, of course, but a PUD gives this council all those descriptions that you just mentioned, right?
That's correct.
And so you're saying the other one, CC1 or 2, is up there that has no.
This one
currently
is CC2, so it's more intense. It's not the community neighborhood district, it's straight CC2.
So I always welcome the PUD concept because it gives us a voice to integrate into the citizens' concerns around it.
That's correct, and that's what is the great thing about a PUD is that you can make your zoning, setbacks, parking, you can make everything more restricted. You can make sure and address all the items for development. The fencing can be more restrictive, the landscaping, which those are the things that they've done in this PUD.
Thank you.
The setbacks are increased. I'm happy to answer any more questions.
Any more questions from council? We'll probably circle back around to you in a moment.
Okay.
At this time, I'll open it up to public comment. We'll limit total public comment to 30 minutes on this.
I did want to say, I'm sorry, the applicant is here for presentation as well.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, open up to public comment, limit this to 30 minutes total. We'll take members one at a time, only speaking will only be allowed from the podium. When you approach the podium, please state your name and address for the record. I guess we'll start with that. So this time, is there any public comment concerning this agenda item? Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Robert Gould, and I live in Diamond Estates at 2829 Southeast 43rd Place.
What's your last name, sir?
Gould,
Gould.
G-O-U-L-D. And I just wanted to say a few things. One is that, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to turn down the application for a reason. And it was a lot of comment that went into it, which we don't have enough time here to do that. But they had all the information that they made their decision on is not to approve it. Okay, number one. Number two, my main issue is traffic, because number one is retail is going to be allowed there if they get the approval. And retail can be a lot of different things that, can cause a lot of traffic. And it's not necessarily 8 to 5. Retail can go, 9 o'clock or whatever. And also, our exit, from Diamond Estates is out on to Southeast 44th. Also, Blue Ridge Estates is too. Now, I talked to Holly, who is the marketing manager at Home Creations, who is the developer and builder of the homes in there. And those homes are going on lots that are 0.6 acres and larger. And the prices are running $450,000 or more. So they're not just, cheap homes. And Diamond Estates isn't really either. And Holly said that they were planning eventually to put as many as 250 to 300 homes in Blue Ridge Estates. Already they've got, 20 some in there, but, they said 250 or 300. So I was like, whoa, I was surprised. But there's a lot of land over there, so they obviously can do that. And on that handout I gave you, I showed you there the existing exit for Blue Ridge Estates onto 44th Street is circled in red, and also to the west of that is where they're going to have has a projected another exit from Blue Ridge Estates onto 44th Street. So, we're talking about plenty of traffic there without having any retail along there. My main objection is to having retail along there, basically. And the fact that once they get the approval for the zoning, is liable to set a precedent for the rest of the vacant lots and the houses that are there that can be bought and changed into retail also, is all the traffic in there. And then I also circled down there at where 44th Street and Pennsylvania and Highway 9 all come together. More retail in there and more traffic is just going to cause a real disaster. If you haven't been there, you wouldn't realize the uniqueness of it and the way that 44th Street comes out onto Pennsylvania and then makes a quick little right and then onto Highway 9 again. And one comment that was made at the Planning and Zoning Commission is, well, we'll just put in a traffic light there. If you really look at it and you were there and looked at that situation yourself, a traffic light isn't going to work. So, there's a lot of issues here, and I just wish we had more time for more people to be able to speak, and like they did at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and really get into it, our objections to it. And of course, and my wife and I, our lot backs up, is adjacent to the subject property, along with my next door neighbor, Gail, who is here. And we have half-acre cul-de-sac lots. And so, being a cul-de-sac, our backyard is by far the longest section. And it backs up right to the adjacent property. And, with retail going in there, and you know, it can be noise, it can be, some of those lights, I don't know. They can be very, very distracting. And we are a residential area that we love, and we hate to see it destroyed. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Gould.
Thank you.
Any other public comment concerning this agenda item?
Good evening, Jason Spencer.
Jason, you're going to present for the applicant.
For the applicant, do you want me to wait till the end?
Yes, wait.
Okay.
We'll take public comment now, and we'll get you to present here in a little bit.
If I fell asleep, I would have stood up sooner. Gabriel Zarate, 4350 Trevor Court. So my property is actually going to be coming out my back patio looking at this commercial residence building. Everything that's been described so far about this building, what's going to be going in, sounds really good. But oftentimes when a project starts, we know that plans can change. They can do a variance, they can change pitch roofs, whatever. So while it sounds good now, when it comes to the completed project, what will it finally be? We don't know, because again, this is just a proposal. It's not, nothing is set in stone. So, and as somebody mentioned here, the next time somebody comes up here to maybe change the idea or the presentation of the property, the design, this may not be the same body here. It might be somebody different. So, so I'm opposed to it initially just because we don't know what's eventually going to go in there. The other thing too, in regards to the commercial property, we were pretty excited when the property was originally sold because it was an eyesore as it was. Cars in the back, which, you know, didn't bother me when I knew what I was getting into because I could see what was happening when we first moved in. But it was so far away from our property that it didn't bother us. Now with this being zone commercial, it's not going to be just 4 or 5 cars. It's going to be a giant building back there with a parking lot with lights, polluting the night sky. It's just not what we signed up for, basically, to put it that way. So it kind of, to us, and we love our neighbors, by the way, we love our neighborhood. It kind of changes, as it was mentioned earlier, the dynamic of the neighborhood. This is not what we originally moved out there for, and was to keep it a rural zone and get away from a lot of the commercial businesses that are located. My other concern is Santa Fe and Highway 9 is already zoned commercial. You've got signs up there for build to suit. So my concern would be if they start building in that area with less restrictions, which might be more attractive to a lot of other businesses, what might, if this property is developed, what could eventually happen if it turns into a blighted building or a building that's going to be vacant? Don't know. Security is another issue since it's going to be low impact, 9 to 5, 8 to 5. There's not going to be someone there after 5 o'clock. So what's to say somebody won't be pulling up in there, going into the backyards, looking over the fences and spying on the neighbors? That security is a concern right now. It's a concern now with the building as is. Me and my neighbors leave our floodlights on all night just because we don't know what's back there. So with a building hiding, whoever is sneaking in behind that building from the main street, we don't know what could happen. So that's another concern right there too. The other concern that I have is the property values being dropped down by that. I'm in real estate, I've been doing it for over 15 years. I see the impact of commercial buildings going up against a residential building. Property values will drop. Will it recover over a period of time? Yeah, it can, but we're not in it, some of us are not in it for that long term, and it could be years. And depending what happens with this building, if it becomes blighted or not, the property values may not improve. So that's another concern there. Location is a really strong expression in real estate. This location does not make sense for any commercial buildings. And of course, it's based on my perception. Maybe someone else's perspective is different, but it just does not make any sense, especially with Santa Fe and Highway 9 area being zoned commercial. As far as the other buildings zoned commercial at the far end, the carpet cleaning place or whatever that is, coming off of, Pennsylvania Highway 9, or the access road. There are residential buildings around it, but it's so far away from us that it doesn't bother us. Now, what does bother us about that is the neon flashing light that they have there. Since this is on top of a hill, what kind of signs will they have in front? Will it be illuminated? Will it be blinding us as we turn the corner going down the road? We don't know. So we have concerns in regards to that. And my last statement would be this. I'm sure all of you love your homes. You love being in it. You've created memories there. You raised children. You love going out there barbecuing in the backyard and playing with the kids in the front, watching the neighbors play. How would you feel if somebody tore down a house next door to you and put up a 7-Eleven or another commercial building? You'd probably be upset about it. You'd probably be feeling the way we do. So my personal opinion, as well as many of the other neighbors, is we're opposed to this no matter what goes in, because we just do not know what the final project will be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Michael Moyer, and I live at 2937 Southeast 44th Street. I've lived there for almost 15 years, and I'm actually kind of embarrassed being here tonight to say I've never been to a city council meeting before. And seeing what's going on, I really wish I had, and I think I might start haunting a little bit and see what you guys do. So my husband and I moved in here about almost 15 years ago now. We have 5 kids, so we spend a lot of time in our yard. We have animals. We have, we use our yard a lot. We are out in it, and so we see a lot of what goes on around. And we can see this from the back corner of our property touches up against the back corner of this property. And so therefore my children being in my yard will have direct contact with anybody who's in this yard, which, you know, once it is open to people just coming and going for a retail or a business, you know, it can just be anybody. Anybody can come in, and you don't know what they're going, who they're going to be, what they're going to do, why they're there. And when you don't live in a place, when you don't own a place, you don't care about it as much. You're not as careful with it. So we're concerned about things like litter, people wandering through this property, and possibly over fences. Not that we know that'll happen, but we're concerned about it, especially with the kids in the yard. One of the things that concerns me is, and I know as the neighbors we see it differently than the city does, but the picture of the property, it's not outlined on that picture, but I have it outlined on mine. And you can see that this property doesn't just front along Highway 9. It goes back almost 450 feet into the neighborhood. And it touches, I think it's 8 different properties. And many of those properties, most of those properties, are homes with kids, with animals. A lot of these properties are zoned so that we have farm animals. There are in this neighborhood, or well, around it, there are cows, goats, horses, chickens, and sometimes geese and ducks, because we have 2 ponds that this water will also drain into, which is another concern, is things that are left here being blown by the wind or washed by the water down into our neighborhoods. One of the things I think has already been touched on, but we all purchased these properties as estates, as a rural family community. And it is really very rural if you go over there. We have to walk across 44th Street to our mailboxes. So, you know, we have to cross across that road. So again, back to the traffic, when there's a lot of traffic, that's a concern. And again, with the kids, if we send our kids to get the mail. So this, we feel like that this, putting in even offices, definitely retail, it doesn't serve this community, the people in these neighborhoods. It wouldn't serve us, but it does bring problems to us. It brings us problems of traffic, of litter, of more people, of possibility of pollution, noise, light, litter. And so we do not want to have just so many people, so many things. We bought our homes as a rural community, and we would like it to stay that way. That's the end of my statement. Could I read a statement from one of the other neighbors who is sick and not able to be here tonight? It's very short.
Absolutely.
Okay. Her name is Amy Coker, and her address is 2901 Southeast 44th Street, and it is the property directly to the east. So they share their entire property line on that side, the 440 feet. So she says, good evening, my name is Amy Coker. I live at 2901 Southeast 44th Street. My husband Donnie and I are raising our 5 children right next door to this property in question. We enjoy being outside and seeing beautiful sunrises and majestic sunsets. What is being proposed would change the way we live and take away our sense of security. My children would no longer be able to play outside by themselves for fear of who or what may be next door. It would take away our view of the sunset and replace it with a brick wall and bright lights. I understand wanting to develop along Highway 9. I just don't think it's reasonable to bring the city life right next door to a family who enjoys the rural way of life. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Any additional public comment? All right, Mr. Spencer? You've heard some of the concerns of the most impacted residents. So, from my perspective, I'd like to hear how the PUD you proposed addresses those concerns, and if it does, and so we can kind of see both sides of the situation here.
So Jason Spencer, 300 Point Parkway Boulevard, Yukon, here on behalf of the applicant. And so basically to touch a little bit on what Janae had described on, after we submitted this PUD, and we modeled it initially off of the PUD that was next door to the west, that's part of Diamond Estates line for the commercial. We met with the neighbors, listened to their concerns, and after that we went back to the drawing board. We worked hard with staff on staff's comments and on the neighbors' comments. And so what you have before you tonight is the resulting PUD that's greatly restrictive. And so, I mean, this PUD, it greatly limits the allowed uses. It meets and exceeds facade and landscape requirements that's in the city's code. Aesthetics has been a main concern, and so what we have language in the PUD that's agreed to a residential style building with a pitched roof that would also be architecturally similar to the Traditions Spirits building that's over in front of Diamond Estates. We've also increased the north setback to 50 feet. The east and west setbacks adjacent to residential were increased to 15 feet. We've limited it to one building. And we've also placed some limitations on signing and some additional limitations on lighting as well. And so, like I said before, you is a much more restrictive PUD than what we started out with, and then much more restrictive than what's allowed next door to us. And I think it's important to note that we've heard from Planning Commission and others that we anticipate commercial growth in this area. And so what I see with this PUD is first off neighborhood commercial, which by the definition that is supposed to be adjacent to residential housing into a neighborhood. But what we've got is something that's even more restrictive, has a lot more protections within this PUD that I think that this could be, used to buffer this addition from anything else that's coming in the future, and also to set the standard of that commercial growth and how you all regulate the commercial growth in this area. Some of the other concerns that we've heard tonight, traffic. A small site like this doesn't produce anywhere near the traffic that's produced out of the residential subdivisions. And by the nature of it being a business that's supposed to support the neighborhood around it, and from the small size of it, it's not likely to be a destination where somebody's driving from clear across town to come here to do something. This is, some small retail sales or services that's supporting those neighborhoods, so it's people on their way home stopping by, or people during the day stopping by to use those. So it's not typically putting more cars on the road. Not to say that, there wouldn't be somebody that comes from across town, but that's not typically what you see with a site like this. This is not a Walmart, or I think we heard, putting a 7-Eleven in. Well, a 7-Eleven's not allowed by what we've put in here with this language. So you're not going to have just a high turnaround of additional traffic on the road. I understand that there are some traffic concerns and some issues with the intersections where they tie into Highway 9. And if this property was to be rezoned and developed, they will pay their share of impact fees that can go towards fixing some of that. So we heard some about aesthetics, which talked about some of the additional restrictions and requirements that we have in this PUD that I think help to relieve some of those concerns. And I can understand concerns about, upkeep of a property and things like that, but those are the same concerns that you have with a residential house or with any type of property that you can have around there. And this property has an owner, and that owner cares about what's going on. They've already cleaned up this lot removed some of those cars from what they've had. And, they would, an owner of a commercial property would care about picking up trash and doing those things as well. We did talk a little bit about signage was brought up. I mean, we've limited, there's no electronic message display signs, you're not gonna have flashing lights. We've limited it to one marquee sign. If there's a couple different retail stores together there, they would all be on one sign, one marquee type sign. And so, I think just in summary that I'd say is the neighborhood commercial by its nature is meant to be next to a residential neighborhood. And I think what we've got here being a restrictive PUD with, requirements, I think that you're getting something that can positively, flow with the neighborhood and the area there and can set the example and the trend for future commercial growth in this area. And with that, I'd be happy to answer questions.
And probably in the PUD document where I'll ask you, what type of fencing will be on on all sides?
So, I believe we've got no less than a 6 foot, no greater than 8 foot high fence required along the boundaries of budding residential zoning. So it'll be constructed entirely of stucco, brick, stone, or wood and be solid and opaque. So it'll be something that you can't see through, so not a chain link fence.
Jason, would that include the parking lot area all the way to the front of the property?
Basically, where we abut residential, we would have to put that now. So I guess technically where we butt up to the commercial lot, we wouldn't have to have that fence, but I think we could agree to add that down the whole property
But on
line.
the east side, your plan would be to have that fence all the way up to?
Correct.
Almost the entryway to the
Correct.
property?
So on the east side, it would likely come all the way to screen the parking lot, and I think that's, if we need to add some language to clear that up, we can add that into it
Just
too.
an example of, or what's planned if it's approved?
So this is an example, and what we've tried to do is tie this down with the language that's in the PUD. So we've been very descriptive and worked with staff to try to make sure that, what you end up getting may be slightly different, but I mean, you're gonna get one building. We've got the setback shown, and when you look at the amount of parking for it, this meets the code and meets the PUD. So I would anticipate something that's in this style and similar to that, but it may be slightly different. And that's, like I said, which was one of the other concerns that was brought up was, well, saying things here is one thing, that reality would be different. But we've put that language and worked really hard with staff to make sure that we've tied those loose ends off so that you have a PUD that spells out exactly when somebody comes to build in here, what the requirements they have to meet.
So, the reason I asked about fencing, there was concern about access to the neighbors, but there will be a 6 to 8 foot solid fence adjacent
Correct.
to any neighbors that would be pretty difficult to get through. My other question would be on screening in addition to the fence. What additional screening would you have, trees, shrubs, whatever that might help deaden any potential sound issues that might come from the property?
So we have, in addition to the fence, the evergreen trees, we have those to enhance a visual buffer, and we have trees to be placed adjacent to the fence in areas to obstruct views of the building. And then also reference the city's code on that too, which requires some screening there. So the intent would be to try to keep some of those trees there and whatever we can to plant some additional trees adjacent to the fence to help break that up.
I don't know if this makes sense, but is that building, like you have the sample building there, about how many square foot is that?
That's about a 14,000 square foot building.
Okay,
So
so is
something
that
like-
about as big as it could get based on the regulations we have here?
setbacks?
Probably so. You may be able to pull it back a little bit, but when you look at a typical administrative office or small retail center, that's about the width you get. And if we go, as we start increasing the square footage, we have to increase the parking along with it. And so
That's
you
what I
can see
mean.
where you run out of space really quick.
Right, and that's what I was
so-
wondering, is what you've got there, kind of the max? if you
I think
consider
so,
enough
and especially since we've limited it to one building.
And so with that being said, what type of spacing do you have proposed there on the drawing between the edge of the building and the north property line?
So we've probably got about 150 feet shown right there.
The reason I ask that is, the concern with the neighbors, if this was to be approved, you put in the PUD that there's a 50-foot rear yard setback, but you're proposing about 150 foot built from the rear yard. So, is there any appetite for adjusting that, increasing that rear yard setback to ensure that there was a larger buffer between the back of the building and the neighbors to the north?
Sure. I mean, I definitely think that we could probably go up to 100 feet, just not knowing exactly the building, if it's going to have something that sticks out a little bit. But we are going to need that area. That's where the detention pond would need to go, would be back there. And then we also need space for septic system to meet the DEQ requirements. So, I mean, with that, I mean, I'd feel comfortable saying that we can increase that to 100 feet.
Is there anything in there, and I've kind of looked it over, but is it one story, that's it? Or is that a limitation on that? Was that discussed?
That was my question.
Yeah.
Is that with the top of
So it's one story, and that'd be 35 feet to the top.
Right, but it is one
And I
story.
need to-
Is there
Height
an opening for
regulations.
2 stories?
So we just say right now, just as maximum building height within this PD should be 35 feet. I mean, I think I'm fine, we can limit it to one story.
That's my concern, was getting it too high where it's
Right.
even more of a, I mean, a rooftop looking like another neighborhood house is one thing. The side of a building up that high.
And I might remark to you that if this was to be approved as a PUD, then if there was any changes to that PUD proposed, it would take public notice and hearings through the planning commission and city council to change that PUD, because the PUD becomes the zoning for that property. So, there's no chance of them going outside the PUD without notifying public notice and hearings. So.
There's concerns talking about it draining into a pond. Does your detention pond drain back into that pond, or?
So the site generally drains from the southwest to the northeast, so we would collect the water and transport it and probably do a dry bottom type detention pond at the northeast corner of our site where the water naturally leaves off of there. We'd have to, take a look and turn in calculations to city staff as well to look at that. But so we would maintain the current drainage pattern, just so water that leaves our site would ultimately drain. If there's a pond up there, would ultimately drain to it. But we would put in, like I said, a dry bottom detention, detention pond that would control the flow. It also gives ability for some pollutants to settle out and those kind of things before it leaves the site.
Now, on the parking lot side of it, does it go toward Highway 9?
So-
Or does it,
We show all the parking basically in the front of the building.
right,
And so,
but the drainage part of it, pardon me, would go to the south?
but most of the site's trying to drain to the northeast, so there'll be a very
Line
small
drain
ridge
somewhere.
that would drain there. So we would have to basically get the water around the sides of the buildings one way or another.
Now, in your estimation, your parking lot, would the front of the building be further back to that property line there, to that residential?
Yeah, you can see.
It's a little more better on this one.
Yes.
More better?
More better.
So you can see, here's the adjacent commercial, so it does push it back a little bit further.
And all your lighting would be toward the front?
So yeah, with with something like this, the parking lot in the front keeps that lighting to the front. Now, there may be some small lights on the building, but we've agreed to cut-offs, on the lights to make sure that there's not spillover on the neighbors. And your code is has some pretty restrictive things on the lighting as well, so we'll meet and exceed that.
How tall are those trees along the perimeter, do you know?
I don't know. I think the existing ones, some of them I believe are cedar trees.
You would be leaving the ones on the west?
We would try, if not, we would fill them in with new trees.
They're about 30 feet
Almost covers the roof. You can almost cover the roof as it goes right now.
Pretty close.
I'm still thinking about the concern of these neighbors whose yards are gonna be, probably the noise or the view. And you said could be rock, could be brick, could be a wood fence. There's a lot of difference between those.
He didn't say wood, he said rock, brick, or stucco.
I said
Oh,
wood.
you said wood, okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I missed that. That was what I was trying to get at a while ago, that it would be something other than wood.
And if I'm a next door neighbor, first of all, I'm concerned about several things for their benefit. They have a voice in this. But if, I've seen the wood fences go up, look real pretty for about 3 months, and then they start losing boards, and they're easy to climb over and things like that. So I'd be curious I'd sure like to have a better understanding of what type of fencing you would use. And I don't know if you can say that right now or not, but.
Yeah, I don't know that I can agree to a masonry wall the whole way. I can probably agree to doing some brick columns, there, but, to do a masonry wall around that length is quite expensive.
I'm not sure what I would ask for, but do you understand the concern?
Sure.
That's the one part that could decay faster than anything, I would say, even well built at first. So.
So, I'd be happy to come up with, I don't know what kind of language we could put in that would, as far as finishes or something that would help protect that, but I do think that, we're gonna have to have the ability to use some wood. It's just too great of a length to do a wall.
Did I hear it right? Almost 2.5 acres total?
Yeah, 2.3 acres.
And I did hear from residents about the fact that property was so deep and that your activity may extend to the north side, but I was glad to hear the mayor ask about that, because that would be, I'm not saying this makes it sweet for anyone, but it's better to have it, at least it would keep it biased more toward 44th Street.
With septic and the detention, takes up quite a bit of space in the back.
Right.
You would think, but I'd be in favor of an established setback or an agreed to setback to ensure we don't get a lot of other activity built back there.
Well, I think, the limitation of one building and ensuring that one building would be not closer than 100 feet from that north property line, that would be if they couldn't build a secondary structure at the time there, it would have to be open space detention. Provide a significant amount of break.
In a residential setting, though, wood fences, but I know, I hear you, because I maintain mine, and it's a lot. But residential neighborhood, that's the standard.
Yeah, I know.
Is wood fencing that goes around everything.
Right.
And honestly, I think a stucco or a brick or.
It's the first thing to go
Yeah,
for
but
someone
I'm
who's
saying,
not living there.
A brick or a masonry fence would actually stick out, more so.
Yeah.
Depends on what you build out. I definitely don't see them building a rock fence, but it would probably be CMU block or something. I mean, it just wouldn't be very attractive.
Sure.
To go that route.
Would you guys be willing to look at, brick columns or rock columns or something?
I think we could look at doing that at a certain interval.
Okay. The reason I asked is we've had some commercial areas that have put wood fences up that have not maintained them.
Yep, sure, I understand.
One adjacent to a residential area I'm aware of, and, you know, it's a heavy use. It's not a lighter use like this. It's significantly heavier use, and if those aren't maintained, that can become an issue to the neighbors surrounding them. So if there were brick or rock columns, that would provide some stability to the wood fencing.
Sure.
Kind of where I'm getting at there.
Do we have a minimum spacing that we would be okay with?
Who's fence guy?
I don't think you'd wanna go over probably 16 feet,
I don't think it's 16, yeah. That'd look weird.
Two panels.
2 panels in between.
Right, right.
Would that be palatable?
Does the neighborhood have fence behind it right now?
I believe it's wood, just wooden.
Just wood fence behind it at the moment? So we have a wood and a wood. I guess is what we're getting at.
Right.
I will make just a few remarks. You know, I'm very cognizant of the impact it's going to have potentially have on the neighborhood. What we're seeing in the majority of town is when new additions do go in, and they're adjacent to Highway 62, Highway 37. A lot of the areas around town, they do include the frontage being commercial and backing up to residential. That's kind of the norm that we're seeing nowadays with the developments when it's in an area like this. So it's not unusual to have commercial abutting residential behind that. I've never seen an applicant agree to this much of a restrictive use on a commercial application before, because it's very limited to what they can potentially utilize this for. And, you know, if they're marketing for whatever, they're not marketing this for a 7-Eleven or something along those lines. It's going to be something that is very low impact considerably, or considering that it's still a neighborhood commercial that's been stripped of its harshest uses. So I will say that, and I don't think Mr. Spencer's wrong in the fact that if you've got that building, then you've got the Traditions building, and should anything else develop commercial along there, even the existing CC2, it would probably lean towards making those buildings a little bit more along this line than maybe something that is a lot less attractive. Those are just some thoughts about how I think the applicant is really trying hard to be a good neighbor and to put something in there that's not going to be detrimental and potentially, you know, even a benefit to the area long term. But,
Is there a way that I can say something?
I may open it up in just a little bit, but
Okay.
we'll, you know, we typically don't have 2 public comments, but I may allow a couple of comments here in a minute if council agreeable to that.
I would like the citizens at least absolutely feel like they've been heard.
Yeah, so, any other comments or concerns after Mr. Spencer's presentation?
I mean, kind of echo you on my thoughts is, I mean, to me, they are making a lot of concessions to make this the softest blow against that neighborhood is what can. And we've talked about it many, many, many times about that Highway 9 and all of our major highways really that are going through town is the commercial up front that would be. And so I feel like if that, like I said, I echo a lot what you say, this will almost, ain't gonna guarantee that that space between becomes similar to this, but it lends it heavily that it could influence that build out to be more like what Traditions and this is. The fact that we've got 30-foot tall trees as a buffer on the sides, we've got fencing that we're gonna put up with good structure to hold it up. know they're not gonna have an open look to a pasture land. But an owner has rights too, to be able to develop their property and to do something with it. So we have to look at both sides. And I think the landowner is trying desperately to be a good neighbor here.
Any other comments?
Well, the request is for us to think about if this was our home, and
Oh, yeah.
you may not believe this, but we think about that almost every time, because it does, and we're selected by the people, and boy, these are people I know who are being affected, so.
I've got a hospital being built.
I would say a general conviction I have is we cannot avoid commercial being up next to residential. It is in several places. We can't avoid that totally. If we don't approve this, if we don't go with this one, someone will be back with it, maybe a little bit later on, but I'm with the mayor. What you hope for is to have it presented in a way where there's a willingness to try to make things more compatible. None of this will ever take away all the concerns. The gentleman's right, it could go, they could stay open until 8 o'clock if they want to, and so there's cars in there going in and out. I don't know what kind of business it would be. I'm glad to know it's not a service station or bowling alley of all things, but still, only the ones who live next door to it, the ones who live next door to it really have a voice in this, and I'm concerned for them. And I've talked to several people just about Highway 9 in general, to a person. Everyone knows we're going to develop quite a bit of commercial on Highway 9. I would like to see whatever we do, even if this wasn't approved, I think we have a remarkable awkward traffic flow between 44th and Penn. And in Pennsylvania has no stop sign until they get to Highway 9, if I remember correctly. And if you pull out of 44th, looking at the stop sign, you're going to pull to the stop sign, someone coming from the north would be in the right, and they plow right into you. So I would like for us as a city to explore, is there any way to put a stop sign to slow traffic down or stop traffic? In other words, equivalent to a three-way stop.
Yeah.
We need that anyway, whether this thing gets approved.
So it's only a two-way stop right now?
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
44th Street.
right.
Yeah, no, Pennsylvania has
There's
free
not.
access to Highway 9 stop sign.
But these people coming these ways do,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
I don't even know if there's a stop sign, I guess there is a stop sign. But you, with that much activity, you think the other people are gonna stop too, and they don't, so.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that would be something we need to look at in either way. The possibility of blight, that's a real possibility, and that's a possibility whether it's commercial or residential. These residents that I see building up there, I don't think we're gonna see blight in any of them. They have a lot to be proud of, and they've invested a lot. But I have a feeling whoever invests in this is gonna be the same way. There is an investment they're not gonna want to let decay. And finally, the concern that was shared with me is don't, they're gonna, possibility they're gonna build all the way back to the north end of that property, and I feel a bit better that that's not likely now. These are not easy
No, they're not.
decisions for me.
Any other comments from council?
I was just looking at this, I don't know, Janae, if you may have said this, but now I have the Google Maps pulled up. To the west, past the two neighborhood entrances, so Nicole and Blue Ridge, those properties, when you keep going west, what are those zoned as? All the way to May? Do you know?
Probably still ag, I'm guessing.
Well, they kind of look like it, I was just curious.
Yeah, it's ag west of Blue Ridge.
Okay.
And there's the mining.
Oh, I saw that.
That's right there. but it's a special use in the,
Right,
ag zone, so they got a UPOR for that.
yeah. But if we just, in general, it's kind of commercial operation.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, and then between the church and the Sooner Cleaning and Restoration, that's open there. What's that zone?
Here is, let me open
This one, she says commercial.
it. Enter, so this is CC2 right
Those are
here.
the CC2.
This is CC2.
That one is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's split, there's some ag, CC2, and then E1, then the church, and then
Okay.
E1.
Okay.
But this, most of this lot here, in fact, there it is, right there.
Oh, it's EC2.
Oh, okay, I see now. Okay, thank you.
No, I'm sorry, it's right here. It's right here. I apologize, it's further down. It's right here. So you have the E1 and you see these strips. This is one lot. I don't know how it got two zonings on one lot, but it did. But this is CC2 and the majority of it's CC2. There's a small strip there that's,
And those to the right of that
Those are street
are also,
zoning.
no, it's just as a separate zoning designation on one lot. Then you got E1, then ag, and then E1. And these ag lots, I doubt that they meet that 5 acre minimum, so they wouldn't even be, there, it's part of the CC2 lot, in fact, let me try something. I also want to make a comment, we were talking about blight and littering, and if the building isn't kept up or the fence, we, in planning, we also have code enforcement. And so if there's ever any concern, if any litter, or if there was uses that were not going on or anything, anybody can call in and we can have our code enforcement go out and make sure that they're following the regulation of PUD, because that's zoning, like the mayor said, that's in perpetuity. And so if they weren't keeping consistent with what that PUD was approved, then we would be able to cite them on any violation of that. So, see what I'm talking about? So that's CC2, this is the same lot. So here's the lot, the subject tract, and you're right here.
Gotcha.
What are the strips between the E1 and the CC2? Are those still ag somehow?
Those skinny ones?
Yeah.
That's what I was
So
looking
if you
at.
see this is one lot.
Yeah, those darker green skinny.
Yeah.
It's not a lot, it's the same, there's two different zoning designations on that one lot.
So you just deal with that if they want to do something with the property, then you.
Well, they'd have to come in first of all, and I would ask them what their proposal is, and then I would probably have them, because the majority of it's CC2, have them rezone to CC2, or do a PUD, depending on what they wanted to do there. But by CC2 right, I mean that they could do anything on that property, and that's about 5 acres. Let's see. Yeah, 5 acres. That's got to be more than 5 acres. That's more than 5 acres. That's not right.
I think that's right. That treed lot is 5 acres.
Yeah, it's 5 acres.
Then there's the lot
Mhm.
to the west of it that's another 5 acres that's owned by the church.
Mhm.
Then there's the lot that the church is on.
Mhm.
There's probably another 5 acres.
Oh, I was
there,
wondering
so-
if the church owned that other piece. I
Yeah,
see
they
that
own
now.
that other
Okay.
one.
Yeah.
Or they used to. anyway.
Where
Yeah, they do.
Mhm. E1 with part ag zoning. Did that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, anything else from council for the moment? All right, I'll take a couple more public comment. Open those just for a couple more.
This is not my comfort zone. My husband is in England, so I'm going to come up here and see if I can speak. My name is Naomi Byers. and I live at 4351 Trevor Court. My property is butted up against this property that we're discussing. First of all, I want to say that the person that bought this property is not going to live there. He is not going to care how it is maintained. Once he flips it and gets his money, he's off. So whatever business goes in there, we can only hope that they will maintain everything, their fence, their property, their litter, their whatever. But that's only our hope. But the man that is flipping this does not care. He doesn't give a flip once he flips it and gets his money. What happens there? But we're left with it as neighbors. The other thing is it was mentioned in a previous meeting that the owner is wanting to service the rooftops in our neighborhood. And that's frankly not what we're asking for. We moved there with the intent of driving into town to whatever we needed. We didn't intend to have the store come out to us or whatever. So it's not basically, at least as far as we're concerned, it will never service our rooftop. We will drive to get our rooftop serviced. The other question, and I appreciated your comment, sir, very much. But in all honesty, if you individually were to answer my question, would you want this going in right next to your property? I don't care what it is. Would you want it there after you had bought your home, had your family there, your comforts are there, you feel safe there, and then a business comes in for whatever the business is? Doesn't matter. Still a business. Would you honestly be able to answer me and my question, would you want that there? And I really honestly think that none of you would. None of you would. The one last thing I want to mention is we are on Highway 9 as far as access to Newcastle, Norman, whatever, but we are not on Highway 9. There is a lot of property both ways on Highway 9 that we all know is probably going to go commercial, but they will have access, direct access to Highway 9. They will not be on 44th to get to Highway 9. They will have their access straight from Highway 9. Then the city is left with putting in traffic lights or whatever accommodates for that much traffic for that business. But as far as 44th is concerned, it is not straight access to Highway 9. So it's not convenient for somebody to turn off of Pennsylvania and then go to 44th and go to a business for what? I don't even know. But it's really not convenient. I mean, it wouldn't be for me. But anyway, I just wanted to mention those thoughts. I hope you will at least consider them along with the others of our neighbors and respect us, please, and keep our neighborhood safe like we like it to be. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, I'll take one more if anybody else wants to speak. If not, we'll close comments. All right. Anything else from council?
I want to answer her statement or her question to us. If I were in your situation, I wouldn't want a lot of what is probably going to go on the rest of Highway 9 in my backyard. If I'm looking at it going commercial along there, and it is, it's a state highway, it's that casino's down the road, it's going to. So if I were in your situation waiting, do I want someone who's sitting here giving me, it's going to be like a medical office building or somebody's office where, like I have a business, I mean, not in the market, but I have a business where I don't go to customers and customers don't go to me, but I have office space, and eventually I may move out of my house, and that's the type of facility I would be looking for. So I didn't have customers coming to me. It would be me and my employees coming in and out, 3 or 4 people every day. That's the type of thing I envision that would probably move into a building like this because of the setup and because of the way, the fact that it will be on like an aerated septic, and that it's limited in size and the scope of what it can do. that's what I would envision, and by far, I would rather something like that go in than a hotel or a gas station or high-traffic commercial, a Dollar General, things like that. And I answer that saying, if I were in your situation, living where you're living, that's absolutely what, I grew up in construction, I've seen where it goes, what it does, and, you know, envisioning ahead, I'd take that in a heartbeat over what it could be. And I hear everything you're saying, I absolutely do. And I'm not afraid to vote no if I need to, I'm not afraid to take a stand when I need to, but knowing what landowners have envisioned already for Highway 9, I take it in a heartbeat. And I know that might not be popular, and I feel for you, but at the same time, sitting in your shoes and in your seat, that's what I would do.
Oh, I forgot to add one thing about that Tradition Spirit. It is not a high-traffic place. They strictly have employees there. So it's not they're not selling stuff out of there. There's not a lot of traffic. I did want to mention that. It is a business, but that's, yeah.
And I appreciate your comments, but we'll only take comments from the podium. And I will say this about the Traditions location. The way it's zoned, they could sell that tomorrow and turn it into something with a much higher impact than what's proposed with this PUD. And the lot between this PUD and Traditions could come in with a much higher impact because it is fairly wide open on CN zoning. So, anyway, we can't guarantee what future uses will be other than limiting them with a PUD. This is our best opportunity to tie something down and limit the ability of that to somehow morph into something in the future that's a much different use than originally went in. Traditions is in there now. Traditions may not be in there 10 years from now. And we will have no control over what goes in there as long as it fits into the PUD that governs it. And
If this were to happen to me, I would not want it to go in, and I would protest it. But I would also know that it's gonna go before a panel that has to decide overall what's gonna happen. So, that, we get asked that question a lot. What if they did right next door to you? And the answer is, probably would feel the same way. But ultimately, it's gonna go before people who have to make that tough decision overall, what's gonna work for the city, and everybody gets a voice, including the people who would be trying to put something in across from me.
I've had my property for 28 years. I live directly right off of Highway 37. When my wife and I moved out there prior to construction of our home, I felt like there'd be commercial in front of our property at one point in time. And it did. It became a car lot. And I'll admit, and that's why I asked the questions about the lighting and stuff like that, because my kids could go out there at midnight and play football in the backyard with the lighting. And that was one of the concerns I had with this piece of property is how far back would the parking go? Is there lighting in the parking lot and how it goes? You know, to minimize that, I guess I'm gonna call it a distraction of your view. Also, I know when Highway 9 got built, Southeast 44th Street wasn't even supposed to be there. It was supposed to have been taken out. You remember, Carl?
I do.
And the state said, leave it in. And it's not even city street anymore, it's still state highway, isn't it?
We're responsible for it, I think, but it is state.
Yeah. So,
So anything we do in 44, we have to go through state approval to do signs, do anything.
That's correct.
yes, because it's in state right away. You know, I know how you feel. I know how you, and it is troublesome. And sitting here, it makes the hardest job possible in this, to be honest. Nobody in this room takes this job lightly at all. I know that y'all's made a lot of concessions to it. I mean, as I look, well, sorry, it's been flipped. There's a lot of commercial down through there that can possibly go in. And I wished we had half the control that's going down through there. You know, what's running out in front of 37 was metal buildings and strip malls. And, you know, they've got everything from golf cart sales to, I guess I actually have a vape store or a weed store down there somewhere. So, I don't know. It's a tough decision for us. I'll let that be.
And I'll just make a comment, you know, I tell anybody when they come on council, zoning is the most difficult thing that they'll ever deal with because those closest to it and most impacted by it are never going to like change. And it's really hit home with me in the last year or so because we being the family, we've got a farm that's been in the family ownership since 1904, original Chickasaw allotment land. Actually has had control of it since probably the 1880s, a little before that. And for years and years, this city and the people in it predominantly have wanted a bridge and connection between Newcastle and Norman. And I've always thought it was a great idea. You know, it would get that connection to Newcastle, and it's just wonderful that we can get over to Norman from Newcastle. Until they decide to run that turnpike right through the middle of our 100-and-some-odd-year-old farm. So, do I like it? Absolutely not. Has my family shed tears over it? Absolutely. Is it probably what's in the best interest? It's what the majority of the people in this community want, and it's the most logical route for the turnpike to go through and the bridge to go through. And it's hard for me to be in favor of something because I thought it was going to go across somebody else and change my mind because I'm the one that's impacted.
How far is that from your house going to be as well, from where you actually live?
It's just a mile. I mean, it's a mile from my house, but it's going to come within about 5 feet of my daughter's house. So, I mean, it's all hypothetical of what would we think when it was near us. I always try to do what is fair and what is consistent to both the residents and the owners of the land who have a right to develop their property. And this is hard. It's hard for all of us to deal with what is change for individuals most impacted. But I truly think, long term, if this was to be approved, this would be a best case scenario for the area. And I would hope that it would lessen the usage that would ever go on the tracks between this one and the Traditions location. And hopefully start or continue a trend of moderate commercial development along there if it did turn commercial rather than any high impact usages. That's my thought. You know, none of us ever know until we're faced with the fact that it's going to go right next to us, what we would think. And like I said, I've been hit pretty hard with that, but in the end, I can't be in favor of something when it's going to impact somebody else and be against it just because it impacts me. So, you know, that's my thoughts. All right, I guess at this point in time, I will entertain a motion.
Nobody wants to be the guy.
This is 6A.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna be a fan of any here, but, I make a motion that we approve item number 6A, to rezone this property into PUD as it has been presented.
I would like to ask if you would be amenable to some conditions. One would be 100-foot rear yard setback.
Okay.
Another would be limited to 1 story. and another one being to,
Brick
brick columns or stone or some other type of masonry column with no more than 16 feet between columns on the exterior fences.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve item number 6A, to change the zoning of this property to the PUD as it has been written, and changes of 100-foot setback on the north side, no single story only, and that the fencing around is required to have stone or brick columns no less than 16 foot.
No more.
Oh, no more than 16 foot.
All right.
That's-
Is that good? I'll second.
Have a motion second for approval of item number 6A.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Jean Reed,
Yes.
Carl Nell,
Yes.
Marcy White,
Sorry, yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 6B, discussion with possible action on adoption of the emergency clause of ordinance number 929.
Make a motion to approve item 6B.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item number 6B.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Jean Reed,
Yes.
Marcy White,
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. The council be okay with a 5 to 10 minute break?
Love
Yes,
it.
sir.
All right, we will take a break and come back with item number 6C.
Yeah, yeah, make it.
Okay.
Item number 6C, public hearing, discussion and possible action on an application for rezoning from A agriculture to E3 residential estate district for DPG Investments LLC located in the south half of the northwest quarter of the southwest quarter of the northwest quarter of Section 8, Township 8 North, Range 3 West, Indian Meridian, McLean County, Oklahoma, property location 4232 South Pennsylvania, Newcastle, Oklahoma, case number R2022-016. That application has been withdrawn. Be no action on that agenda item. Item number 6D, discussion and possible action on deviation from facade requirements as described in the Newcastle Code of Ordinance, Chapter 154, Planning and Zoning, Section 154.103, exterior requirements for Highway 62 Development District, Segment A, for the First Baptist Church Auditorium addition located at 1650 North Main Street, Newcastle, Oklahoma. Now, I will have to ask you, Jeff, since I am a member of the First Baptist Church, should I recuse myself from voting and discussing on this item?
I don't think it's required.
Okay.
Good evening, council members. So First Baptist Church is requesting a deviation from the exterior facade requirements for the Highway 62 overlay district. They are requesting a 26% deviation. It's a 100% requirement, anything facing a street. So they're requesting a 26% deviation from chapter 154.103B1 for the west-facing elevation, which is Main Street, and a 70% variance from chapter 154.103B2 for the north elevation. This is the overlay district segment here, outlined in the bright green. The church is actually zoned ag, which the church is in allowed use in that zoning designation. Just goes into just a little bit more detail on the requirement for the 62 overlay. I do have a pretty picture. I'll pass around. This is the material that they're proposing to use for the siding. It's a wood panel look. I'll let you guys take a look at that. This is the elevation. So this is the west facing elevation. This is where they will be using that, which doesn't qualify as particularly a masonry material, but it does have the look and feel of that siding and that wood look.
Durability is great.
I know, the building looks beautiful. So that is their request. The applicant is here, Planning Commission, and did vote to approve, vote 3-0 with planning staff support. I'm happy to answer any questions.
You know, you said this is a view from 62?
Correct, 62.
That's
So
west
this
facing?
is the west elevation, so
Okay.
facing 62. This would be the north, south side really is all 100%, and the east as well. This is where they're doing the majority of the work.
We've made a concession very similar to this, almost across the street, which was Kerry McPhillips' building, that we deviated from that for an architecturally pleasing look with a product that was deemed as durable. It's a pre-finished, not pre-finished, it's actually pre-stamped and stained, so it'll handle, it's not gonna be like regular siding and having to be repainted all the time. And to me, it's very architectural pleasing, so I think we've set precedent here where we should be able to accept that.
And pardon me for deviating, I'm just trying to picture that. So that's facing Main Street.
Correct.
So I'm used to seeing the large cross and the sanctuary, the large part of the building over on the south end against 16th Street. So that all goes away?
No, this is going to be out in front of that.
This is in front.
So
of
there's
that. So it's
the
in
existing
front.
auditorium right there that you come in off.
Oh, so.
So it's in front of it.
That's out of view from this.
Mhm.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
They're shrinking their parking lot.
Yep, okay.
They still will meet all the parking
No, but I'm saying,
requirements.
but they're
Wait.
coming.
So what?
They're also updating all the lighting there to be full cutoff and doing all new fixtures and increasing all the
Part of
landscaping.
that picture is.
So it'll be
that
really
And they
nice.
can add, they own that property to the.
Looks like maybe the gray on the right hand
They own the
side.
They
property.
do, some, yeah.
Just not just to the edge of the
Oh,
field,
no,
nothing north of
wait.
the edge of the field.
26. Which,
not-
okay,
not
show
very
me
far
which
north.
piece of
They
that
could
is
really
that
put much
stuff.
more
Right
parking
here.
over there if they wanted to.
They could
The
put.
light.
Okay,
the light
okay,
color.
the light color, okay, that's what you're trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's the dark colored?
Here we go, another.
Buddy, you should ask.
It's approved material.
Oh, that fits within the,
That is per material?
does this have the same type of wear and worn, like what we saw with
Concrete
like the
series,
siding
That looks like
stuff?
masonite, I mean.
Yeah, does.
I'm sorry, what was
Is
that?
this similar to like the lifespan of like that? Remember when we were doing those alternative facades over here? Is that the same, it's not the same product, but it has the same life
For
type
which one?
cycle?
Hardy boards.
Yeah, like Hardy
It's
plank
a little
or-
bit different than Hardy.
But I mean, like a lifespan is probably, it feels like it probably has a good lifespan on it.
It's probably better than hardy board, actually.
Yeah.
M8 plus is pretty.
They brought the
A whole lot better.
to our meeting, and Dennis Sanders had already seen them, and he indicated it was a good product, and I think it'll stand up better than the Hardy board, which
Okay,
I
that's
thought
what,
stood up
it feels like it probably
real
will.
good. Yeah, that's what I thought.
My guess is if they selected it, and there's a lot of people in on that, and M8 plus designing it.
Right,
It
True.
is probably reliable.
true. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, when I first saw the side of it, I thought it looked like
A wood composite.
just coated wood. But
I know,
it's-
right?
It's just got some wood filler in there.
Huh.
It's part of the cementous.
Put my eyeballs
Interesting.
on.
It'll be a remarkable, good look, I mean, very beautiful look,
No, it's gorgeous.
this whole design.
It's
Is
interesting.
there any public comment concerning this agenda item?
Oh, I see what you mean, Tommy.
All right.
Mixed in.
Make a clarification, do I need to come up?
Yes, please approach the microphone and state your name for the record.
Evening, Candace Lineover, I'm part of MA Plus and part of this design. I just want to make a clarification, that second sample that went around is only in select locations around the existing building to improve upon the look of it and match it in.
Oh.
The darker or the gray color is actually a brick.
Okay.
And then the lighter white color is actually concrete, so both
Oh.
masonry.
Oh,
Coated concrete?
Yes.
Coated.
cool.
So the only
Thank
difference is the tan.
So it's tilt up wall construction?
Yes,
Tilt wall, okay.
the concrete portion.
Right.
What's that mean, Tommy?
Tilt wall, it's full concrete. They poured it on a pad and lifted it, tilted it
Like
up.
the Amazon building.
Like the Amazon building.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm with you. My favorite people. Okay.
That's right, I got a couple of Amazon boxes on my front porch.
It's pretty.
The only thing I'm not real sure of, it's a 26% deviation, meaning,
It's a 100% requirement on the overlay district, anything that can be
Okay.
seen from the street or facing the street.
But we're allowing that what they're showing us exactly what they're putting on it. So it's not like we're deviating to whatever they want to put on
Yeah,
it. We're
right.
deviating to a
course.
specific product that they presented.
So that'll be part of the approval, is that it's that
Is that
product?
specific product, correct?
Correct.
Cool.
Same thing we did with Carrie. Said that product will allow for that percentage.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 6D.
second,
Motion second for approval of item number 6D.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Jean Reed.
yes.
Darcy White. Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 6E, discussion of possible action recommendation of planning commission for amendment to the Newcastle Code of Ordinances, chapter 150, section 150.24, certificate of occupancy, subsection D, to allow approval of temporary certificate of occupancy for 30 days with a monthly fee of $100 for residential properties and $250 for commercial properties for a period not to exceed 6 months, and for adoption of ordinance number 930.
This ordinance amendment is dealing specifically with chapter 150.24, certificate of occupancy. I have up here just the language that was originally in it, what has been striked, and then what has been added. When we took it forward to planning commission, we suggested a $250 monthly TCO fee, temporary certificate of occupancy, as long as there's no life safety issues with that permit and with that building inspection. So we're talking about they don't have their sod in, or they're missing, So
What in the world
Yeah,
this gonna do this for?
they're not completely done with their landscaping, or they have part of their detention facility is totally complete. But no life safety issues, would be allowed, under the TCO. When we went to planning commission discussed that, they decided that they would like to see $100 TCO fee tied to residential building permits, and the $250 tied to commercial building permits. And so it would be a monthly fee for that TCO for a period not to exceed 6 months, and then they would have to be able, in that time frame, achieve the permanent certificate of occupancy. Right now, we don't have anything tied to, we don't have any TCO fee. So what's happened is we go out, our inspectors go out, do inspections, they're not ready. They call again and they're not ready, and then they want the TCO. And so we spend a lot of time back and forth, and then we don't have any way to recoup that. And then also to promote them getting their permanent certificate of occupancy. Right now, our code allows it just a straight TCO at the building inspector or planning director discretion, as long as there's no life safety issues, for a period not to exceed 60 days and no fees attached. And so many cities do have TCO fees to prevent that from.
My only concern with 6 months, as is proposed, is a business has gotten themselves very comfortable and operating, and it's going to be hard to shut the doors on them.
Well, they have to pay the $250 a month if it's a business. We're hoping that that detours them from having that become an issue. I put the 6 months in there coming from a place that did not have the time limit. I've even gotten threatened by business owners, one recently here, that it doesn't matter, I'll just continue to pay the TCO fee and I won't do the work, you know? And so we have something to hang our hat on here.
But our existing one is only 60 days, right?
60 days, yeah.
So that person couldn't.
Yeah, they couldn't, but then, and they could be shut down under penalty if they did not achieve, and we hate to do that.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying, we don't want to do that. And so, to me,
this gives them a way, if they cannot achieve CO, that they can go ahead and open, and they can pay that fee, instead of just operating under a TCO and not having a fee. And again, like I said, our inspectors going out multiple times to do inspections, and the work not being
well, on the commercial side, occupancy permit, are you allowed, without a TCO, are you allowed to start fixturing a property without a CO or a TCO?
Fixturing, like it's.
Like if you got
Lights.
No.
Desks.
Structures, like a.
Structure, bringing in, no.
Bringing in.
So that's
like-
the same thing, like with Dollar Tree, when they came in, they got it was before this, they got a TCO so they could.
Start.
Right, so they could bring things in, but that was just no life safety issues.
Right.
They had to do a few things before they were even able to get that.
Yeah, no, I get that, and that's why I like the TCO, for those, especially in business for that regard, where as they're buttoning up those fine details that are not life safety issues, they can start fixturing the store, setting up the store, bringing in product, training employees, doing all those kind of things. But
And you can actually operate under a TCO for
Right.
business. You don't have to have the permanent CO to open.
I like it, it's a good step.
I don't like 6 months. I don't like 6 months. I mean, for the reasons, like Tommy's saying, they settle in. Honestly, a lot of businesses, $250 is nothing. And then we got a problem on our hands. Like, what kind of problem is it creating? Like, why deviate from 60 days, I guess? Like, give me examples of where that's created problems and why we would want to lengthen it for 4 more months. Do what?
Sod?
Sod, well, time of the year,
Sod can't
weather.
take 6 months to get.
No, but it can take
Time of season.
the time of season of putting it down.
Right now, it's taking 6 months to get a lot of things.
Out there.
There's truth to that.
It'd be nice if the fee at least continued on somehow though, or that there continued to be
It's
incentive.
a monthly fee.
It's a monthly
It's
fee.
a monthly fee. It'd be $250 a month, not to exceed 6 months. And that's when we come in at that end of that 6 month period and say, you need to complete and finish out, and are you ready for your CO? Why have you need to get your sod in, we need to get your landscaping, or your detention needs to be completed, or they might not have their parking, have their parking lot striped, but they don't have their parking bumpers in, or they don't have striping, or they left out a handicap space. I
Well,
mean,
where's
there's
the
just
line? Like,
So right now, we're operating with no limitation on
Right.
POs. We've
And
got
no fee.
businesses in town operated for 10 years on it,
I thought we had.
No, it
I thought we
says
had-
60
I thought we had
days.
60 days.
Huh?
She's saying where
60
she
days,
came
no
from
fee.
didn't have
With
that.
no fee.
There's no fee.
They don't go
60
10
days.
years, they only got 60 days.
No, we've had businesses do that.
Well, but because we haven't enforced our
Yeah, we
ordinance.
haven't kicked them out.
Yeah.
We didn't enforce it though. I mean, that.
That's that plays into part of my point. is
Right.
They get to that point and they can't do it. I mean, we've had a major argument here about a certain resident that was supposed to put in drainage in the property right off Main Street, and that became exceptionally violent
And they're
because
still
we've been
on
on the
And they still aren't,
They're
voice
still on a TO,
was
aren't they?
that, huh?
It's still on a TO.
and they're
Yeah.
still not compliant.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but they said, we've been here this year, it's not this, so why should we have to do it now? It's an undue burden on us. That's,
And that's why I say 250 is nothing for commercial business. It's not. They can afford that. I mean, think about how long Dollar Tree could go on 250 a month.
oh, they could.
Well, I will say too, is a lot of times that, and it just depends, I mean, the zoning is one thing, but property owners, so a lot of the GCs want to get paid by that developer, and so they don't get paid until they achieve that CO, a lot of times.
some
So-
Is that under our control
that's
though,
TCO,
or just
but that-
under their
It's
control?
under their control, I mean, that's between their contract with,
Right,
the
so-
developer and the GC, I don't have any control over
Right,
that.
well, and that's what I'm saying.
But they give
It's
TCO,
incentive,
They-
incentive.
I'm trying to, on a TCO, but if you allow, if they're not getting paid till the occupancy permit is done, then that's 6 months later. If they're paid within a TCO, then that doesn't change.
Right.
Because we've already got it where you can do it for 60 days. If we string, because they can typically get paid on a temporary occupancy permit. They don't have to wait, but they usually don't release their retainage till after TCO,
Well, here's a thought.
TOC, whatever it's called.
Here's a thought that kind of parallels with something the school board did. When teachers weren't certified in their area, they were listed as like adjunct. But the board had to approve them well, for that case, every year, school year, to keep going. So what if they hit their whatever month, and hit a period, and then and because of like cases what we just discussed, if it's gonna come before the council again, you better get your crap together, because they may say no and they may shut you down. And it takes such a burden off of the inspectors to have to say it, but if it's coming before the council, we're gonna say, what have you done, and what's your progress?
Well, I will
I
say,
think that steps us outside of our role. I mean, I understand what you're
Why,
saying.
we're making that rule right here, that's
Well, I know,
is
but
our role.
that's our job is to create the
well,
rules.
this isn't the so that would be the ordinance, and then we would have to enforce it.
Right.
So
Enforcement.
so say, just for example, somebody goes all the way to 6 months, and they're refusing to get the landscaping, or they have refused, and it's during a time of year that it can be done. We know the issues, because I see the complete inspection list from that building permit, and everything they've passed, everything they failed. Electrical, mechanical, the site, the detention, the building, everything. If they get to that point, we have chapter 10.99, it's penalty, and you can find a business, a person, anything in the ordinance that is not being adhered to per our ordinance. It goes through code enforcement, and you can find them $200 a day for each penalty.
Then why aren't we doing that with these ones that have abused
Well, we haven't
the rules?
We haven't gotten to that point yet. We're trying to headway off some of that. We haven't had months and months of people not adhering to. I know the one that you're talking about on Main Street, they're actually coming in January, so.
Good luck.
Well, we gave them 6 months originally, and they blew right by that without a blink.
Well, that was even after, let's not get into that.
I know, but what I'm saying though is, again,
I guess, I mean, my biggest thing is why, kind of on what she said is, what do you see, why do you see a need for 6 months versus say 90 days?
I didn't have any, like I said, I came from, there was no limit on TCOs. And so I was putting a limit.
Here in Newcastle?
No, in Norman.
Okay, no, but here, we're coming off
60 days.
60 days.
Mhm. But no fee.
Yeah,
And that's my recommendation.
yeah.
I like it. It's a start. It's what they feel like is going to affect change, so.
Staff
If it
too,
doesn't
I mean,
work-
it's hard for us
No.
to,
I don't really have a big, I mean, 6 months goes by pretty fast. I don't have, and if they're paying $250 a month, at least they have to come in every month and address it. Whereas right now, they just kind of ignore it. We haven't pushed the issue, but I have no problem with the 6 months or 90 days. It's not that big a deal to me.
I don't like 6 months, but I do see
I
the
love what
point.
we're doing here. I don't mean to interrupt you, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I do see the point of charging though, because our people's time is worth money. So I do like the idea of charging. I just don't like going from 60 days to 6 months. Because we say sod, we're sitting here saying sod, but the truth is, sod's probably not gonna be the issue, and it's gonna probably be something that could create a bigger compounded issue. If it's drainage, then come a big rain while they're sitting on that TCO not doing anything, they're gonna flood out somebody's property. I mean, lots of things can happen. And so we can't look at, it could be a really minor thing. We have to look at, what if it's something maybe not life and limb, but that's gonna cause the city a lot of work if they don't get it done and they're just sitting on it and sitting around, and then something ends up happening, then at the end of the day, we're gonna cost a lot more work than $250 a month just to fix it, because they sat on it and just paid the $250 over and over and over again.
can I give you an example with Ziggy's up here?
Sure.
So they did not put their detention in the way that they were. They didn't put the trickle channel in. So I spoke with the developer at length and said, you didn't put it in per plans that were approved. Well, I'll just get a TCO and I'll just keep on going on TCO. I said, well, our limit is 60 days. And he said, I'm gonna have to rip out all that sod and you're making me do this. And I said, you didn't build it for the approved plans, period. And he said, well, I'll just keep on getting a TCO. I said, well, we have a 60-day limit. And then I said, and by the way, it just went through planning commission and we're gonna have a $250 monthly fee with a 6-month limit. Because he was like, well, I go to other cities and I just pay my $250 because they don't have an end date to it. Well, this week, if you go by there, they're out there and they are fixing their detention facility.
Well, in the interest of not being here till midnight, I'll entertain a motion. We wanted to sit around quite a bit, so you guys can, whichever jumps up with 6 months or 90 days, we'll roll with it.
What about 120 days?
That would be up to you guys.
That'd put
What
it
is
through
that, 3
spring
months?
in case they needed sod. or
I mean,
something.
24 months.
4 months.
If you want to meet in the middle, go 4.5 months. I really don't care.
I'm not down with 6 months. I could
Well,
sweat out
entertain a
4.
motion. So,
Make a motion.
Oh, okay.
step up.
Motion to approve, what is this?
E.
D?
E.
E, no. 6E, occupancy as written with the exception of not to exceed 4 months.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item number 6E, not to exceed 4 months.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay.
Yes.
Gene Reed.
Yes, but I supported 6 months.
We don't have lots here.
Yes. About the middle.
I'll bring it back, in a couple of years and we'll try it again.
Item number 6F, discussion of possible action on for adoption of emergency clause, ordinance number 930.
Motion to approve agenda item 6F.
Second.
Motion second for approval of 6F.
Yes.
Tommy
Yes.
Clay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Item number 6G, discussion of possible action on recommendation of planning commission for amendments to the Newcastle Code of Ordinances, Title 15, Land Usage, Chapter 154, Planning and Zoning, Section 154.029, RF1, Single Family Residential District, Section 154.030, RF2, Two Family Residential Districts, Section 154.031, RF3, 3 to 4 Family Residential District, and Section 154.032, RF4, Multifamily Residential District, by amending regulations pertaining to rear yard setbacks for main buildings and accessory buildings in those districts, setting the net minimum lot area at 7,200 feet in all those districts, as applied to single-family dwellings, and for adoption of ordinance number 931.
So this ordinance amendment, as you stated, Mayor, addresses the RF1, the rear yard setback for the main building and accessory buildings, going from 25 feet to 20 feet. And then for accessory buildings, from 10 feet to 5 feet, if there's no easement, and or 1 foot off any easement. Of course, the lot area in RF1 is already 7,200 square feet, so that is taken care of in that section. In the RF2, 3, and 4, it's the same thing. It's the 20-foot rear yard setback for the main building, accessory buildings being 5 feet from the property line if no easement exists, or 1 foot off the utility or any easement. And then changing the minimum lot area from 6,000 square feet for a single-family dwelling in RF2, 3, and 4 to 7,200 square feet for the minimum lot area in those zoning districts as it's reflected in the RF1.
Here, here.
That
Sounds
way,
great.
we did that so if
Good.
anybody tried to come in and do a straight zoning to an R2 or R3, that they wouldn't be able to build single-family homes at
Gives us some
6,000
control.
square feet.
Yep, it makes it
Good.
consistent.
Our citizens are going to, they've been asking for this.
I'll entertain a
So I
motion.
have a question.
She wants 6 months.
No, God forbid we discuss. Why, no, I have a question. Why the 25 to 20, like, explain to me so I help me
Buildable
understand.
buildable area, so it gives a little bit more buildable area in the
Okay.
rear yard.
So-
It leaves it up to, most rear yard setbacks are not the same as your front setback like ours was. And so the 20-foot rear yard setback allows a little bit more for you to have a covered porch instead of going to the Board of Adjustment for a setback, because anything covered under a porch is constituted as a part of the main dwelling.
Oh, okay, okay. I was just curious on that. I'm all about it, especially 7,200 square feet, so, but I just wasn't sure on that
Caught
one.
that when I didn't realize I started reading through the ordinances and was doing this amendment, and I was like, well, we gotta change that lot area.
Yeah, I know,
Zoning
I'm all about
designations.
that. Okay.
Make a motion to approve item 6G.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item number 6G.
Mike Fullerton?
Yes.
Tommy Klein?
Yes.
Jean Reed?
Yes.
Marcy White?
Yes,
Carol
now that I
Nell?
have clarification.
Item number 6H, discussion of possible action on adoption of emergency clause of ordinance number 931.
Approve item number 6H.
Yeah, second.
Motion
And
second
yes.
for approval of item 6H.
Mike Fullerton?
Yes.
Tommy Klein?
Yes.
Jean Reed?
Yes.
Marcy White?
Yes.
Carol Nell?
Yes. Item number 7, discussion of possible action regarding final plat of common area B1, a replat of Windermere Phase 4, Block 26, lots 1 through 5. Be no action on this agenda item. Do we need to continue it to our next meeting, or no? No action, period. Okay.
Planning Commission.
All right, item number 8, discussion of possible action on award of contract to Civil and Environmental Consultants, Inc., CEC, for water and sewer modeling and master plans.
Rick Day, city engineer, and Clint Morris with Civil and Environmental Consultants. This is a much-needed project that was actually discussed at the first meeting. It has several goals, but the main end goal is it provides guidance for future planning and infrastructure to accommodate that. So the goals are, number one, to map what we have existing and get a strong handle on what we have. Provides 1-foot contour data. This is all citywide. It models our existing infrastructure to look at low-pressure zones and areas where sewer has trouble. It'll provide solutions to those issues. And also look at estimate of cost for those improvements as well. We have an issue with inflow and infiltration, in town, which means we treat stormwater as wastewater. So we always want to limit that so we don't overwhelm the wastewater treatment plant. So it looks at, tries to identify the most extreme cases of that and then look at solutions to fix those.
That's usually like handle covers that aren't applicable or not
Sealed manhole
sealed
covers.
right, or
The primary source of that, so jump in, Clint, would be that, illicit connections, meaning a catch basin or a storm drain is actually hooked onto a sanitary sewer.
well,
Pipe joints, old pipe, clay pipe, which I don't know if you all have that much of it here, but, you know, that stuff will crack over time, tree roots will find its way in there, but, yeah, it should be pretty obvious by the flow metering, where, the sewers will have that kind of an issue.
For people's yards, or.
I think that's something that's needed badly, and we don't know what we've got till we find out what we've got, so.
well, we did a mapping with that for our, but that was just really a basic.
That's very basic and has no modeling
Right.
in it or anything like that, so.
No, I like it. Anything we can do to help us make better, more informed decisions with our infrastructure, I applaud.
Well, and from my perspective, to know really where our priorities are. We think we know where they're at, but this will give us an insight about what we can do first that will make the biggest impact on our services we provide, so.
If it helps get my water pressure back up over in Oaks.
You start bathing more regularly then?
You people out there in the west, it's the Wild West, Tommy.
It's actually not been terrible.
You don't have to go swimming in the
All right,
cold
any
water.
more questions for Mr. Morris or Luke?
Kevin's gonna throw something.
Is this going into our existing map, Luke?
Correct.
Or, okay.
It'll basically replace our water and sewer mapping.
Totally replaced.
I make a motion to approve item 8.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item number 8.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay.
Yes.
Gene Reed,
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 9, discussion and possible action on establishing speed limits at 35 mile per hour on the following streets except in locations where the current speed limit is 35 mile per hour or less. I've done a lot of thinking and talking with Kevin on this item. You know, we've had some pushback, even from city staff. And so kind of what I'd like to throw out there for everybody is we kind of move forward and don't deal with dropping any of these right now. And we come in with a plan. We implement a plan to get striping on all of our section line roads. I think will be a much larger safety factor than adjusting the speed limits.
Agreed.
It's gonna cost us a little bit of money, but it's needed badly. And I think that'll do a good job, a much better job providing safety. It'll give an incentive for people to stay on their half of the road, and we just not take any action on this item tonight if the council is okay with that.
We still have our own paint thing, right? Are we using that? No?
Not on these roads.
Too much?
No,
What'd you say?
it'll have to be a truck.
Oh.
We'll have to contract it.
Do it.
It'll be contracting. Hopefully with this big of an area, we can prioritize the ones, the section lines we wanna get taken care of.
Yeah.
And get a better deal for such a boat.
But we're talking about 4 miles worth of roadway just on one section line.
Right.
So
Does our city consider or recommend, what are your views on striping those overpass bridges?
Well, number one, they're state property,
Okay.
so we wouldn't do it for sure.
Would you even recommend it or ask for
I,
it?
I wouldn't, I would let it be treated like a single lane
I would-
bridge, that's just my
Well, the
opinion.
problem is you got citizens that, like I said, I treat it like a single lane bridge, because I'm not comfortable going across two, but you got others, there's plenty of room, they'll just blow right, I mean,
Yeah.
that's my
I
problem. They'll just blow
have to
right
agree,
past.
and I think in a stripe would just encourage
Yes.
the dual, so I just didn't know if I was in the,
Maybe can we put signage up that says 1 car at a time?
we could maybe get OTA to let us do that.
Yeah.
You know, they're not gonna okay anything that doesn't meet current design standards, so they're never gonna allow a striping down the middle of that.
'Cause
What
it's not-
about, what about
However, but
Caution
if we,
Narrow Bridge?
if that, you know, we can visit with them and see if we can get something to say, you know, 1 car only or something, because I don't care how many times you say 2 cars can pass. I went over one the other day and by golly, a car was coming across it no matter what.
I know it.
But you can see the sides are covered with tire marks.
Yep.
I know more than one person that's turned a rim.
margin of error just is so
See,
tight.
that's why I don't, and to hear people just, explode all over
Constant discussion on
Facebook about that.
Anyway, on the interest of not being
Okay.
until midnight, we'll move on. Item number 10, discussion of possible action on approval of resolution number 2022-18, authorizing execution of project application for municipal road drilling activity fund with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation.
So we had a MOU with Blanchard and Tuttle on these, and apparently we need a resolution to go along with that on these oil grants that we're doing,
Oh.
road grants.
So just simple.
Simple.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve item number 10.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item number 10.
Mike Fullerton?
Yes.
Tommy Clay?
Yes.
Gene Reed?
Yes.
Marcy White?
Yes.
Carl Nell?
Yes. Item number 11, discussion of possible action on approval of proposal submitted by York Electrical Systems, Inc. for materials and installation of security and access systems for the Newcastle Animal Shelter Project. We know action on that agenda item. Item number 12, discussion of possible action on approval of purchase of 2022 Ford F-350 with dump bed from Vance Country Ford at state contract price for the street department.
This vehicle was actually approved almost 18 months ago by council to use ARPA money for. It just now came available. So
So do we need
we
to
would like
approve
to
it
buy it
again?
again.
Do we need to approve it again? Since it's in a different fiscal year budget?
Kevin just wanted to bring it back to us.
Yeah, since we're in a different fiscal year and
Right.
a different budget, yes, I just wanted
I
another
move to approve
approval.
item 12.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item number 12.
Mike Fullerton?
Yes.
Tommy Clay?
Yes.
Gene Reed?
Yes.
Marcy White?
Yes.
Carl Nell?
Yes. Item number 13, discussion of possible action on approval of the purchase of a 2022 Chevrolet Silverado 3/4 ton extended cab pickup from Carter Chevrolet at state contract price for vehicle maintenance department.
This vehicle will actually be one for the vehicle maintenance department. It just came available through Carter Chevrolet. It's on state contract. And they're needing one in that department. The problem that we're gonna have in 23, we've already been told by Ford, and I'm going to assume this goes through all, brands, makes, models, whatever. 23 for Ford is gone. There are no Ford trucks for 23. That's what we've already been told. They've already been consumed.
Allocation.
And allocated and spoken for. Unless something just pops up, which is what happened here. And Carter Chevrolet has us on the list. And so they called me up and said, hey, we got this vehicle, do you want it?
Gee, Louise.
One more vehicle, if we get this one more vehicle for animal control, and we should be set.
Cool. Is this one ARPA too, or is this budget?
This will be budget, that's the reason I put this on here. It's below the approval amount, I mean, I could buy it, but I didn't want to do that since it's coming out of fund balance.
Okay, all right, motion approved, agenda item 13.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item number 13.
Mike Fullerton?
Yes.
Tommy Clay?
Yes.
Gene Reed?
Yes.
Marcy White?
Yes.
Carl Nell?
Yes. Item number 14, discussion of possible action on approval of financing proposal for the Newcastle Animal Shelter Project.
We had two quotes, I believe, on this that come in, it was in your packets. We would like to recommend First National for the financing. I would like to recommend the 10-year financing on this at 3.95. And of course, the construction loan comes with this at 3.95 as well. We had to extend the construction loan to 18 months, and both banks agreed to do that with the lead times that we have of 2 to 11 months on materials for this project. There's no way it's going to get done in a year.
What was the other bank's finance rate?
Do you recall that? Neil?
5.05.
Yes.
You got it? Oh,
Okay, so, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve item 14
Second.
to accept First National's loan.
Motion second for approval of item number 14.
Mike Fullerton?
Well, hang on,
Oh, I'm
do they want to, does that motion need to include a 10-year or 20-year? Since there's two.
Yeah, I'll just do 10, with 10-year, with 18-month construction.
Make a motion to approve item number 14 to accept First National Bank's proposal and for the 10-year loan term.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item number 14.
Mike Fullerton?
Yes.
Tommy Clay?
Yes.
Gene Reed?
Yes.
Marcy White? Yes. Carl Nell?
Yes. Item number 15, discussion of possible action on approval of proposed meeting dates, times, and places for the Newcastle Economic Development Authority for the calendar year 2023.
It's yours.
It was my
Ma'am.
understanding that they did not have a meeting, and so they're asking council to set the meeting dates for the NEDA that I have to report to the Secretary of State by the 15th. So,
Do you have,
We haven't had a quorum. We had 2 members come off. We have not been able to appoint some new members yet, so it's hard to get a quorum right now.
So we'll be the quorum and decide it?
Correct.
Okay.
Do you have recommended dates?
The other
It
is,
should be.
They're in here.
they're in your packet
our
right
very
now.
last
As
page.
proposed.
May 8th.
All right, I make a motion to approve item number 15 as proposed.
Yeah, once a
Second.
quarter.
Motion second for approval of item number 15 as proposed.
Mike Fullerton,
yes,
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Gene Reed,
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 16, city manager's comments.
I'll be out the last 2 weeks of December, so everybody next year.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And who's
Happy
in-
New Year to
Who are you leaving in charge?
Camille? I did not sign this because I wasn't here.
Okay, you are entitled to, but you don't have to, so, okay.
All right, item number 17, council member comments. Anyone? Anyone? All right, item number 18 is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
second.
Motion second for adjournment, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
Hey,